coming back in. How you doing? All well on your end, or as well as I guess it can be considering what's at hand?
Yeah, I mean, so far, we've been really good, on my end, since the last time we basically, collabed a few years ago. Shout out to Megan as well, always supporting the channel as well, one of your biggest supporters. I know that.
Oh, Megan.
Um, yeah, Megan's one of those big supporters. If she's not in here, she's over here on my podcast, giving us her opinion on her Seahawks and all that as well. So, it's definitely she's a blessing, I guess you can say, because she's always there for you.
Amen. She's representing 24/7, so she's got my back for sure too. So that's good to hear. I'm glad, and she's yeah, she's all over the place on that, which is good. Well, I wish we could be welcoming you back under better circumstances, and you could be saying, "Hey, we're on the edge of making a run, or things have kind of turned over, and we're going." And I don't want to try to dwell just all on the negative with you. I think there are some good spots to your guys' team, and that in general, I think in a way this year you might be finally to the place of the question I'm going to ask you about next. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you were here a couple of years ago, I said, Hoodie, the thing that stands out to me as a fan outside of the New Orleans organization is that you guys just don't seem to be willing to sort of take that pain on a given year like you might have to when you got a little bit over your skis. When the time has come, when the bank accounts got a little bit too rich, or not rich enough, I guess I should say, and especially considering your guys' cap situation year in, year out, that you never make that choice to kind of turn this thing over, take the pain, and now we can kind of reset this, even once Peyton left, even once Breeze left. Is that still the case now, or has that process begun in this sort of early season pain that you've had to undertake a little bit?
I mean, I would say it begun now. It finally has because if you notice, with the Saints, I mean, I feel like me. I feel like when I look at it, we've been slowly rebuilding because if you look at the roster a year or two ago, people was calling us like one of the oldest teams. We're getting all these older veterans, but now if you see all the younger players, there's only a few older people on our roster. If you think about it, all our quarterbacks are young. The old people that you really know about is basically more defensive side. Cam Jordan, Demario Davis. Those are like really your older players. We did have Tyron Matthews, but he decided to retire this year as well, so he's gone. And then the only older person I really think about on the offensive side is Brandon Cooks coming back to New Orleans. So we really don't have that many old people like we used to. So we are kind of slowly rebuilding, and I think we finally took the turn to say, okay, instead of going chase another quarterback, a veteran quarterback, let's work with what we have. So we had Spencer Rattler, who was a fifth-round pick last year, and then we went in the draft and drafted Tyler Sucks as well in the second round as well. So we got basically all young quarterbacks. So I feel like the rebuild is, finally here.
How do you feel about that given approach to the quarterback position? I mean, in Rattler case, it's a fifth rounder, so you don't mind swinging at that at any point when you're into day three. But certainly with Tyler Shock, this was a prospect that had a lot of controversy around his rise at the late hour in the draft process, as much due to the age and the injury concerns that were coming out of the history with him. Where do you stand with that?
Mm. I mean, a lot of people, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of Saints fan was happy, I guess, at first when we drafted him, but some people are like upset now, because like, why draft somebody in the second round if you're not gonna use them right? And I don't think a lot of who that fans don't really understand what was going on. You got to realize last year we had Carr, Rattler, and Hayner, and then Carr decided to retire, and you got a new coaching staff all around the board, all new coaching staff, and you got to realize Kellen Moore did not draft Rattler, so he said, "I don't know what I got in you yet until I start coaching you and see what and start watching you at practice and see what we got. So let's have a good quarterback battle." So he went with a guy that he believed in, and Tyler Sucks, to see who can possibly be a starting quarterback as well. But at the same time, he gave him a quarterback battle, and Rattler was the one that won it because he was just, more NFL ready. He was ready to lead the team, especially in the first 4 weeks. It's going to be our toughest schedule. We was going against the Cardinals, Niners, going against y'all, and then the Bills. So, that first four stretch would have been terrible to draw a young quarterback and Tyler Sucks in there and just try, hey, loan. Even though Rattler already been through the fire, if you think about it, last year had no offensive line, no players. When he was drawing to, he was drawing the practice squad players because everybody was hurt. So the dude was already drawn into a dumpster fire. So he said, why not? He's more ready now because he's been through it. Now you got weapons around you, so let's see what we can do. and he wound up winning the starting job. And some people was like, well, why the heck did you get Sucks? Then we could have got somebody else. Well, if we didn't have drafted Sucks, then the real question is who would have really competed with Riley, because Hayner wasn't competing at all. Even though they said he was competing, he really wasn't, because he's not even on the full roster. He's like literally on the practice squad. Like, they don't even see him as a starter. So if that's the case, who would you want to back up Rattler if Rattler went down? So I think it was smart to get a quarterback, have a good QB battle, and then whoever wins, let them win. And now, you got two young quarterbacks that are talented that can play if one goes down. You won't be too far off if they both were neck to neck. If we lose one, the other one's going to be able to come in and kind of like lead you to the same thing that just happened.
What's your confidence level that it's 2027 and that either of these two are going to be your starting quarterback?
I would say, 50%, 50-50 right now, just because we got a lot of Saints fans that are hating on Rattler, which is totally fine to me. If you want to hate on somebody, just do it. I mean, it's your opinion. But at the same time, the dude, like I said, was thrown into a dumpster fire last year, didn't have no help. And now he finally gets help. He finally got a good offensive-minded coach as well, and Kellen Moore. And, the first game, he did all right. But the second game, he finally woke up and, drew 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards, did what he needed to do to win this game, basically, but the defense just couldn't hold, nobody. They let Matt Jones look like Joe Montana out there. So, I mean, that was the defensive fault on why we lost that game. But other than that, I think Riley's going to keep getting better and better. And what I've been hearing from from the outside, from one of my friends that's like a reporter, he's been hearing it too, that literally other organizations, other owners, and coaches and all that all said that they believe Spencer Rattler's going to be a starting quarterback in this league for the years to come, but they don't know if it's going to be on the Saints or going to be somewhere else. But they see the talent in him, and they know that he's going to get there one day. But the question is, will the Saints be patient with him and let him grow and, let him show you what he's made of, or are you just going to give up after a few games and just say, well, he's 0 for 8, when reality, I look at it as 0 and 2, because 0 and 6, I ain't counting last year's, because he literally had nothing. He was literally thrown into a dumpster fire.
You're not underselling that. I doing the researches I had to for Clint Kubiak and why the success at the start of the year versus the lack of success at the end of the year. You could see the injury decimation that occurred with your squad throughout the season, and fairly early on at that across the board, especially offensively. No quarterback was going to succeed in that environment. Further to your point, doing the research here for this game upcoming this week, you got Rattler up as the highest graded player on your offense by PFF through 2 weeks right now. So, he certainly is doing what he can on this squad to get through. And you can see there's some limitations offensively with what he's got around the personnel out there. There's still feels like the offensive line is still a bit of work in progress, even though you guys still continue to do one thing that I have to say I'm a little jelly of from the Seahawks fan perspective, which is the investment into the offensive line. The actual, we're going to put prime capital into getting it, not just a collection of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounders at the back end of the draft, but actually really say, no, we're going to go get our guy. How has that strap been working out? Is the offensive line in a strong place right now? Is it still kind of coming along? And can Trevor Penning actually pass protect?
Now, this is what I would say. I say it's coming along. I think by the end of the season, depending on injuries, right? If injury doesn't occur and everybody stays healthy, I'll say by the end of this year, we can have us a top 15, top 10 offensive line up there. They're looking great. But, Banks is looking really good, Kevin Banks. But, he is a rookie, so he's going to make some mistakes. Nick Bosa got a good one on him on one of the plays. But, Nick Bosa, you're going against a rookie. So, if you can handle your game for most of the time and only allow one big play or 2 plays, that's really good for me, because some rookies get in there and they get drawn in there and they can't do nothing. But the way Banks handled it, the way Fuaga handled it last year, so I think with the duo of Fuaga and Kevin Banks and Teron Armstead, man, he even said it himself. He said, I see a lot in Kevin Banks and Fuaga. He said, I can see them being the next me and Ramczyk that Saints used to have for Drew Brees, where you had Armstead and Ramczyk, just 2 great tackles. He sees that in those two. And then, in the center, who's the main glue to that offensive line, which we lost last year, which is why we started doing so much terrible, was when we lost Eric McCoy. He's our Pro Bowl center, calls everything out. He's the glue to that offensive line. If he's missing, the offensive line's just not in sync. So we have him there. And then Trevor Penning hasn't played a snap yet this season because he got hurt, but supposedly be coming back soon. They're gonna throw him at left guard, which I think is gonna be his best position because he just likes to bulldoze and get nasty. So at least he doesn't have to worry about the outside. Somebody beating him on the outside, just bulldoze whoever's in there with you and just go to battle. Now, the one person I will name that a lot of people don't like, and I know why, is Cesar Ruiz. He just chokes a lot on that right guard position. He just allows pressure to come. He might look at somebody and be like, okay, this person's not rushing, so then he looks somewhere else, and then the dude comes anyway, like they're not, paying attention. So like I think Ruiz after this year, this is just my honest opinion. I think after this year they're gonna have to find a different way to go with him if they want the offensive line to get into the top like 5, offensive line because Ruiz is the weak link. So if y'all gonna get any sacks, this upcoming Sunday, just rush towards Ruiz side. You're gonna be fine. You'll get through.
Well, two things with that I would wonder with you too, because I thought this when you guys took Ruiz, and I didn't quite understand this because the tape was so good with him out of Michigan as a center, and you played him at guard. Should this guy have just been day one, put at center and let roll there as a player?
I guess you could say kind of. I mean, because like I kind of started the same thing, right? You think of like Fuaga, right? He's a right tackle, but he got moved to left tackle when he came.
You're right on top of it, exactly.
Everybody got moved around, so I totally understand that part. But at the same time, even when he was drafted, Aaron McCoy was a Pro Bowl center. So why would you take a Pro Bowl out of his position just to put him at a different position when he's already good? Right?
I'm with that, but then you just don't draft him to me. Like that. Yeah. That's the thing to me is then you go a different direction. You say, well, look, we love the player, but you don't, because I think he's kind of gotten by at times at guard when he's played, and I could be this my outside looking in. I haven't watched it like you have, but not that he's been a bad player, but maybe he's regressing a bit this year. But just that this is a common mistake we made with our team, where we draft a guy in college who does this, and you're going to move over here. We literally did it with a center a couple of years ago in the second round in Ethan Posick, and it's just you couldn't really make it go guard, but when you did get him back to center, it was like, okay, that's where he fits. I do wonder that just a little bit with Caesar. And you mentioned with Fuaga as well. I was going to ask you is, how is that transition going to left tackle? Because I've heard tackles tell me in the past, it's not just ubiquitous. It doesn't, hey, I play left, I can play right. I play right, I can play left. There's really a little bit of, hey, I'm left-footed, hey, I'm right-footed kind of aspect to it.
Oh yeah, I mean Fuaga last year, he came in from college being a right tackle. They moved him to left tackle, and he did pretty dang good last year for a rookie. To go from right tackle to left tackle, and now this year they moved him back to his regular position, and they drafted Kevin Banks, who is a left tackle, and put him in the right position. So that's why I think the O line's been looking a lot better. But like I said, still until we get Trevor Penning at left guard, then I can really see everything. But so far, even with Eric McCoy in there holding the line together, you still see the mistakes by Ruiz, and that's got to get fixed sooner or later just because we can't be allowing people into making mistakes like this. Because Kelly Moore said it perfectly in his interview recently. He said, we had both of these games we played where we should have won these games, but we just killed ourselves and shot ourselves in the foot with penalties and, not knowing who the right blitzer was and just, allowing the free tackles and sacks on us. So, like, we were just making a lot of mistakes, dropping balls, having the balls in the hands. Like the Jawan Johnson, in the first game, right in his hands to win the game, to basically, to go for a tie or go for the win. And it was literally like a couple of seconds left, so I think we might have just went with the 2-point conversion and won the game. But he didn't come down with it. And then last game, I don't know if you was watching a little bit of the highlights. We started off slow because they were dropping stuff again, literally right in their hands. And from that, I think we started off with the first. I think he started off like 1 for 5 or 1 for 6. But after that, Rattler went like 14 for 14. We started, getting on track. And then towards the end of the game, where we had another opportunity to try to make it down the field, somebody made some mistake on the pass protection, and they sacked them, forced fumble, and we lost. So at the end of the day, I believe in Rattler. I think he could be a future quarterback for us, a franchise guy, because people are rallying around him. It's just the question is, who do we need to fill in to help him? Because, Olave is a good receiver, don't get me wrong. But he's afraid to take hit now because, one more concussion, he might be out the lead. So, like, he falls straight to the ground. So it ain't like a yard after catch guy anymore. Rashid Shaheed is your speedster, giving the ball. He's a playmaker. But from there, who is going to be the next Michael Thomas? That's going to take any hits, go grab anything you draw him. Don't matter if you draw him back shoulders, he's going to catch it. We need somebody that can be that alpha dog, alpha number one. But we don't have that on the team right now.
I watched last week. I did watch the whole game of the Niners and Saints, and there did seem like at least a moment or two there with Olave that He felt a guy closing in on him. He's had that hospital ball thrown into him before on those kind of throws, and I felt like I saw him, to your point, like you just said, like kind of hold up a little bit. Like maybe he could have gone out there and put his arms out and tried to grab that throw, but instead went, nope, that hurts. I don't want to do that again. I want to try to. I can't. The guy's had concussion issues like hell, so it's not a blaming of toughness. It's just you do wonder about that with him on the long term, don't you?
Oh yeah, it's just the long term. So like, um, a lot of us are like talking about it right now. We're like, okay, well, if Olave keeps falling to the ground, he don't want to take the hits. He just wants to catch one low ball, go to the ground because he's scared. I mean, at this point, at the end of the season, they got to have a big discussion if you want to extend his contract or you want to just trade him and get rid of him. You know, you got to figure out something because, like I said, it's hard to win a football game when you only got people catching the ball and going straight to the ground. You know, we need some yards at the catch players to make some big plays, not this draw it to you, let me just fall to the ground because I'm scared to take the hit now. Because, like they all said, he's probably one more concussion away from, might have to quit football because he has so many of them. He's kind of like Tua. Tua gets another one, Tua might be gone too. So
That's going to be the hard part for, I think, the Saints on this one, where you may get into sell mode at the trade deadline. Receiver is a position that people do need, but then they probably hold the Saints over the barrel a little bit about the concussion factor of it being he is good, but there's that risk. So we don't have to give you this amount of value for him because of it. And then the Saints maybe not enough to go, okay, we'll do it at that point. It puts them in a bit of a pickle with that, a bind.
mm-hmm.
Kellen Moore was your new coach this offseason. Were we good with that hire? Did we feel like the franchise exhaustively went through a variety of guys to land at the ultimately best one? Or did they kind of get tunnel vision on one?
Me, I think we got the best one out of all of them. I think the only other one that I really liked was possibly Joe Brady because he's an offensive minded as well, but he didn't want to come. So since he didn't want to come, Kellen Moore was another offensive minded guy to do play quarterback in the NFL and college level. So he knows, how to read things and see things. And if you look at Kellen Moore's record, anybody he coached as an offensive coordinator, his offense always was pretty good. He succeeded with the quarterbacks. He won with Cooper Rush at quarterback while Dak was out for a while. He won a few games with him. So, like, if he can find a way to win with some of these people that I don't see as a really good quarterback, just to tell you this is what my thoughts. I thought Kellen Moore kind of reminds me a little bit of a Sean Payton, played a little bit of NFL quarterback, went to an offensive coordinator job, and just is really smart at the game and knows how to call plays and can be really creative. It can probably work with what he has, right? Like, if you watch these last two games, everybody thinks the Saints is the worst team in the NFL, right? And then we come out here and we basically fighting and clawing every single way, even with, new players and all that, because, Kellen Moore knows how to work with what he's got, and I'm really liking it. But the thing is, it's just you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're getting these penalties. You get a good play, a big positive 20-yard play, and then boom, here it comes back with a holding, and then it screws you. And that's what's been killing us the last 2 weeks. Even though I feel like I said we're still missing a lot of good pieces, but having Kellen Moore, I think we won that one because a lot of people was, well, I think it's between Kellen Moore and Ben Johnson. If we get ourselves Ben Johnson, we're gonna be straight. Well, Ben Johnson hasn't sold nothing, and I mean, Kellen Moore at least hasn't gotten spanking by 30 points by his ex-team yet. Unlike, Ben Johnson, he got his butt spanked by the Lions this weekend.
Boy, did he ever, yeah. He looked a little in and over his head the past couple of weeks. And he kind of looked like he got out-coached by O'Connell in week one in that first matchup down the stretch of that football game. So, even though your team sounds like they're in a little bit of maybe not the best of shape right now to start out or been the last couple of years, I do sense some optimism from you right now into where this thing's moving in the future, both with the quarterback you have at the signal caller and with the coach that you had in the house, that you're getting some things in the right spot. It was hard to ever feel really great about Dennis Allen. That one did feel like just, all right, let's give him the job to me on that one from the outside looking in. So you got to have a little bit more optimism than that. That does just definitely looks better on that. But accurate to say, you feel good overall, even if this is a season that's a bit tumultuous, that your Saints team is moving in the right direction.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I already told my people, I said last year, with a team that was so injured, a team that wasn't even wanting to play for Dennis Allen, and they eventually got rid of him. And with all the injuries we have, that we still put up some fight and, still won 5 games last year. I told them, I said, with a new head coach, with a new coaching staff, with, players that actually want to play now for this team, and, and they fighting every week. I said I can see us winning at least another 5, 6 games like we did last year. Even though some reporters out there think we're gonna just win one game this year, which I don't, see that. Cause I think our team is still pretty talented, and I think they're gonna fight and claw in a lot of games. And I feel like any team that goes out there and just looks at it as a regular game, like just an easy win, those are the teams that's gonna probably learn the lesson. Be like, hey, don't just take it easy because we're not just coming out this easy. Each game we played so far has been kind of tough, and it's been a close one. We just basically shot ourselves in the foot. So I think we're trending towards the right directions. We've been making some pretty good, decent trades for like young wide receivers. Valet is one of the guys, Devon Valet from the Broncos, 6'5" receiver. And they finally got him included in the offense this week. And, the first pass to him was a nice slant into the end zone for a touchdown, use his big body, and that's how we need to start using him because, like I said, we
Colston
don't have
special,
a big body.
huh?
The Colston special or the Michael Thomas special, whatever you want to call it, we need somebody like that on the roster. So I think that's why they went after him. And like I said, we're just getting really young. We got Kendra Miller finally healthy. He's usually hurt. He's very explosive. So I know they're using Kamara a lot. I would like to see Kellen Moore open the playbook up a little bit more with Kendra Miller because when he's got the ball in his hand, he does positive yards. So like I said, Kendra Miller kind of reminds me a little bit of a younger Kamara back in the day when you used to watch Kamara when he first came in. So I would like to see him open the playbook a little bit more with Kendra Miller and also Devin Neal, the late round pick that we got. And everybody was saying that was a steal in the draft because they projected him to go third, fourth round. We want to get him in the sixth round. And he's healthy and ready to go too. So I want to start seeing some more players get involved and get more creative as we go because we got a lot of young players that I think could show what they can be. And if it's going to be one of the years where we don't know where we're going to be, we're not going to probably make no playoffs and stuff. So why not see what these young people have,
Yeah. Maybe all the more reason if he does to the deadline that maybe a guy like Kamara becomes a potential guy you guys look to move if that's an option out there on it. I do think a big part of the keys in this game coming up, to see if you feel the same way, are the Seattle Seahawks have teams that are going to try to, just in general terms anyway, really try to work the backs out of the backfield a lot in the passing game. Stood out to me watching that Niners Saints game in a major way was that a lot of the passing attack was back foot, Kellen, get that ball out. This thing is not going to be, you're going to hit a 7-step drop, you're going to sit on a hitch. It's that he hits that back foot and bang, that ball is going to go to the decision that he's chosen. And if it's a tight throw, it's a tight throw. And he's going to kind of do it. A lot of those were two of the shorter varieties. Am I feeling that offense correctly in the general flow of what I was getting from him? On top of course, mixing in the run and being diverse in the rushing attack and a variety of different ways you're passing. Just it's got a lot of short bases to it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of short, passes, just kind of like quick. You're going to see a lot of motion, just to try to see. Because I think a lot of people don't realize you need to run a lot of motion type of plays in the offense, especially with a young quarterback, because it helps them kind of find out what kind of coverage they're in. Somebody's going to switch and run with them. You're a man. You can kind of pick out what they're going to be, and that helps the younger quarterback a little bit better. One thing that we ran a lot last week that we didn't run in week one was and Coach even said it, they ran a little bit more play action to help out, because we wasn't running. We were just doing a lot of set shotgun or just drop back passes, and that was it. But at least we were running a little bit more confusion with some play actions, more, motion plays and stuff like that. And then the other thing that I really liked as well was Spencer Rattler using his legs a little bit more this game than last game too, and there was one good play that I thought like, okay, stir down or something, and it looked like he was about to be tackled short, but somehow this little man of Rattler, because Rattler's not the biggest dude, put his shoulder down and knocked that defender down and got an extra, 5-6 yards to get the first down, and the whole dome started kind of erupting like, oh wow, that's what we want to see, and I think using a young guy like Rattler who has the arm talent, who can actually run out of the pocket and has pretty good pocket presence. I like him. I really do like Rattler, and I think he's gonna be a really good quarterback. But the question is, can they get the right pieces around him and call the right plays for us? To help this young guy succeed, because you got to work around. You can't just predict that Rattler's just gonna be that guy already when he was picked as a 5th-round pick last year. So he's not even a full season in yet of playing as a starter. He only played 8 games so far.
Yeah, one of the benefits, I guess, when you have been in South Carolina under so much pressure like Rattler was so consistently with a bad offensive line, is that it prepared him for this stuff. And he's got a lot of smart ability. It's kind of like Mahomes, where it's like not a guy that's necessarily super sudden in how he moves, but he's just so smart about how to navigate around through the pocket and get around pressure. He uses the pump fake to the utmost when he gets the guy in space, and he can just always make that guy jump and then get around him after the pump. It's a little like tiny skill set within what he has on top of his other stuff, but it is something I saw last week on the tape as well. So you got to give the kid a lot of measure of respect for how tough he is. Hasn't been made easy here for him out the gate, but he definitely plays with a lot of guile out there and toughness and how, what he brings to the position. Who's the most dangerous guy offensively my Seahawks defense has to be worried about this week when you look at this Saints offense? Who's the guy I got to
Yeah.
eliminate and make somebody else beat us?
Um, only there's only two people. I mean, really, like right now, so far through week two. Number one, the most obvious that everybody looks for when you come out of the huddle is Alvin Kamara. He's
Mm.
still that guy, can catch out the backfield. Run it up the middle if you need to, run him on the outside with space. So that's the number one guy. But the second guy that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on, some Saints fans are off and on with him, depending on how he plays. But it's Jawan Johnson, the tight end. It just seems like he's the target guy that Rattler likes and feels the safest. And he said even after those drops and stuff like that, he said I'll still throw to him 100 out of the 100 times I throw to him. Like he likes Jawan a lot. So I'll say those two are the ones that you really just gotta watch out for. If you take Alvin Kamara and the run game out, then all you gotta focus on really is Jawan because don't get me wrong, Olave's still good, but if you find Olave, you probably won't see him doing no yards after catch. It's just going to be going straight to the ground, make sure he doesn't take a hit.
Yeah. Does Rattler got the big arm on that to make you pay over the top? If you leave Rashid Shaheed 1-on-1 outside nine, he's got to throw a 55-yard nine route. I knew last year at the start of the season, watching some of the Saints tape, Carr was still throwing some of those balls, on some of the chunk plays for you guys. Maybe he hasn't had the opportunity. He hasn't grabbed great pass protection, so that's what you need to throw those balls to. So I got to test the fact that in his time in starting here, it hasn't been like he's been having the time to make those kind of throws. But I guess what I'm asking within it, you can maybe see is, can I condense things? Can I squish down my zones tight up on Kamara, screens and throws out into the flat in order to not be worried as much on that back
Yeah.
end?
I mean, to be honest with you, he does have the arm. He can definitely, tear you apart over the top too. You can look at a few plays. Last week, one of them was the one-handed catch by Saheed that basically landed perfectly in his hands. I think we wound up picking up like a 30, 40-yard play on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And he dropped it right in the downs with the dude all over him and has only one hand and it went right into the dude's and Saheed's one arm. So it's like a perfect pass. So if you want to double down and kind of like lock up Kamara up front, that's fine. But as long as we got enough time to throw the ball, the other person you want to watch is Shaheed. Just make sure he doesn't burn you over the top because he definitely got the speed to do it. And he's basically like, the replacement of Deontay Harris, which y'all probably know very well when we came to Seattle and he had that punt return for the touchdown to do so damn quick and speedy. That's Shaheed. He's got the speed. The only difference, he's got the height advantage over, Deontay. Deontay was a little short. Rashid Shaheed's more like a 6 foot receiver, so he's a little bit taller than Deontay. So, that's the one. The big speedster, I'll worry about killing you over the top. Just worry about Kamara in the backfield. Make sure you don't give him space because when he's got space, that's when he's the most dangerous. And then, like I said, just watch out for Jawan Johnson. Watch where he's at all time because that's his safety blanket right there. That's Rattler's safety blanket.
Week 1 gave up a touchdown reception to George Kittle, a touchdown reception to a tight end at the end of the game, and allowed the running back in the backfield. And I think it was McCaffrey to get like 9 catches or something like that. Then last week, we were really on top of it. And when the running backs made the catch, we were there to tackle them for the most part. Warren had a big bust out, but that's the place you guys have some potential of making some hay to me in this game offensively is you do it on the forefront of your strategy. And it's also a little bit where we can sometimes be a little bit weak defensively in order to be a spot that you can attack. A couple of donations here. Very kind of you guys. Jeffrey, thank you for the $2 dono. Says, this is a trap game for us. 100%. Go Hawks. Well, I think that they'd be very easy on this one to come in 2 games in, Hoodie, and to say, well, you guys are 0-2. But like you talked about earlier, there's a lot of talent on this team on both sides of the football. There's still guys that you might want to say like Kamara or Jordan that have nothing left. Their shot, or Demario Davis, they're nothing. Their shot, but these guys are still playing good football, right? Mm-hmm. So this is still a challenge, isn't it?
Yes, it's still a challenge. It's not like they're going to go down, without a fight. It's not like a lot of people think the Saints was going to be the worst NFL, team this year. But if you're looking around the NFL, The Bears are looking worse than us right now. The Dolphins are looking terrible. You got other teams that are looking way worse than what the Saints are. So that's what I'm saying. We're not a team just to take lightly. So I mean, if you just do your job and actually play like we're a playoff team and you're trying to win, yeah, y'all should be able to beat us. With what we're going through, we're still kind of going through. Like I said, our first kind of rebuild and all that. The only other thing too that I would say is we do kind of struggle a little bit against running quarterbacks. But Sam Darnold unfortunately doesn't scare me too much on the scrambling side. So as long as we keep him trapped in the pocket, that should help the Saints pass rush a little bit for this game. But I thought we was gonna trap Matt Jones, but Matt Jones said, "Hey, let me show you my legs too." So maybe Sam Darnold will show that to us too, because I was not expecting no Matt Jones to be getting first downs with his legs. But maybe we'll be shocked by Darnold.
I'll say Sam doesn't got a lot, but I think he does got more than Mac. Mac's pretty. I mean, he's you know what I mean. He's pretty. I want to go full immobile, but not the most immobile. Let's call him. On that. I think too. It's hard on this one to say trap game. We haven't played particularly well recently, Hoodie, at home. Oddly enough, I think we're something like 2 for our last 8 at home. So, strangely, it just hasn't been one where we have a reason to be confident to just be overlooking you guys. I guess is what I'm saying, considering how much we've struggled there.
Yeah, I mean, plus you got to realize it's the NFL. You can't take no team lightly,
No.
even though how bad they are. They got some teams like you see Super Bowl teams like the Chiefs struggle against some terrible teams, and it's just because I feel like they're taking them lightly. Like it's the NFL. Like nobody's in the NFL just to be in the NFL. Like they in the NFL because they good. They good for a reason. So like you can't take any team, lightly. And just like they say, I wanted to share this with y'all. Like how they always say, well, this team's got the easiest schedule next year. No, y'all going off of what last year record was. Everybody gets better every season. Some teams get better, some teams gets worse. So I don't want to ever look at the record and be like, well, that team last year sucked, so we should get a win there. No, I look to see what the roster looks like the new year now, because nobody is easy in the NFL. It's the NFL, right? So you can't take nobody lightly.
No, you can. And any given Sunday, as they say, is the truth. And it just takes that little bit of dropping the guard in addition to that. That's all it takes to allow any team to have take it to you on that day. And it's hard to be halfway in the game and try to grab it back. It's kind of a mentality that I think builds up through the week of not taking that opponent seriously in the proper way. And hopefully we don't do that. I don't think we will. Jeffrey says we can't, with another $2 donation, can't let the rat find any cheese. And as far as not to be a trap game, and he is right about that. We can't let you guys. We got to get this dub. It's important to us. We're trying to have high hopes on this year, and hopefully we can take it on this one, Jeffrey. Megan Roger, thank you for the $5 donation. She says, 2 of my favorite creators in a collab. Just woke up, but what a great start to the day. Well, thank you so much, Megan. It's good to see you in the house. He was giving you a shout out earlier today, was Hoodie. And we know Megan's going to show up on in here. And I know you had to get up early, but appreciate you for that, Megan. Jeffrey Thistle with another $2 donation says, Finns are the worst team in the NFL, not the Aints. I would concur with this. You were just talking about this a second ago. I think the Dolphins are by far the worst team in the NFL this year. I think you probably have a collection of a couple teams I would go to in my mind. I'm a guy that doesn't have as much, necessarily hopes on believing that I think Rattler long-term is a guy in this league that you're going to be wanting to circle around as your guy to be that guy. I think that he is kind of bridge in his way. But I think he is very functional, and I think he's not been given all of the tools there to find success here with the Saints out the gate, on top of coming to a team that is kind of turning over the new leaf. And that alone, on that part, along with having a quality roster around the other side of it versus some of these other teams, I'm not sure Carolina's not worse than you guys just within that division. I mean, I watched that game last week, and the Cardinals were up on them by 27-3 it had. They eventually brought a little bit of it back, but partly just because the Cardinals are easing off the gas a little bit. So you guys got a quality roster here. This isn't, bottom of the barrel in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at other teams. I feel like there's a lot more teams out there that are worse, right? Dolphins. I'll say Panthers are a little bit worse than us. I'll say Titans. This Titans just ain't there yet. Yeah, they got Cam Ward. I think he can be a future QB for him, but he definitely needs the help. I mean, his best receiver is Calvin Ridley, who used to be really good, but just hasn't been the same guy since he left the Falcons. So they got other teams in there that I'm probably missing that ain't as good. But I would say we're not the 32nd team in the NFL. So, but like you said, every Sunday is a new Sunday, right? So anybody can win any given Sunday. So just make sure y'all do the job. Like I said, don't take anybody lightly, because it's the NFL, and we still got some talent around on the roster. And the one thing that I'm happy about is just that you see Rattler go from what he was last year with nothing, and then you're seeing him in the first game kind of like getting the rust off, and then second game he finally opened up. Besides the first series or two, where people was dropping passes and everything wasn't the best, but after that he was just on something. So like when he gets on it and he gets hot, you know, I just feel like we got a good shot. So if he just keeps getting better and better every game, I think Rattler could be a future quarterback for us. I really do see something in him because if you look at him, he kind of reminds me of a mini Mahomes a little bit, just short. Like if he had the height on it, it would be a different ball game because then he can see over some stuff. But he kind of got the height of Drew Brees, but more mobile. Because Drew Brees wasn't really a runner, but Spencer Rattler can use his legs, and that's what I like because for years we had Drew Brees. After him, we had Derek Carr and Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston wasn't really a runner either, even though he could use it, but he just never was. He was more of a pocket passer. So to finally have two young quarterbacks, a guy like Rattler and Sucks, who can actually use their legs, it just brings me excitement because I know that if we need to use our legs, we can use it because we have somebody that can do it. We're not going to have somebody that's going to sit back there and just take the sack because they don't run.
Yeah, mobility in the quarterback position used to be something that I think was a little bit more optional. And now you don't have to be hyper mobile, I think, to play the position to have success, but you got to have some mobility, and the best quarterbacks in the sport right now all have it, and they have the good arm talent, but they've usually got the legs that match it on up in there. So we'll see. I'll say too that I may be a little bit skeptical a bit on Rattler to a tiny degree. I don't think he's a bad quarterback either. I don't want to, it's that nuanced place you try to get to on things. It's just too as well. You can't make the judgment on the guy until you do give him that really good supporting cast. He's got a steady line, maybe another playmaker or two. Juwan Jennings consistently catching the ball, or John Johnson consistently catching the ball, and had a couple of those brutal drops last week too, as you mentioned, in week one when they did stand out in that game, especially a game that came down to being tight and close. Those drops really do add up in the grand scale of things to holding you back from winning the football game at that point. Flipping it a bit over here in a second to the defense, got a couple more donations. Michael Morgan, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, "What's up, fellas? How you doing, Michael? Good to see you in the house. Thank you for the dono. Appreciate you. Feed Me More Seahawks, thanks for the $2 dono as well. Says, does your salary cap worry you? That's Saints. Yeah, where are we at on the salary cap? It's at times been on the emergency room table, seemingly bleeding out mid-season. Are we to the point we've got the arteries cut off?
Everything fixed.
Has there been a blood transfusion? Where are we at here with this thing?
We got it fixed now, believe it or not. But yeah, we got it fixed because right now we have, I think they said 20-something million in positive cash right now, when normally would be like negative right now, right? Using it on different people, but they're not really signing too many people, and not worrying about it. And what I'm supposedly hearing is that next year's cap was supposed to be in the positive 100 million for the first time ever. It won't be negative anymore. So that's a plus. So that means next year, and then in 2027 we're supposed to be even bigger than that, according to the everything I'm hearing. So if that's the case, then in the next year or two we should be able to sign some good players, and get the roster back to where we need it to be. So I say give us about another year or two, and then we'll be back into the playoffs pictures for sure, depending on who they trying to build around. What if it's Rattler, what if it Sucks, or what if it's somebody in the future draft coming up.
Somebody might be lying to you on 26. I'm just saying. 27, you guys are great for 27. You're right. You guys are flying for 27, but you still got some work to do in 26. It's not as bad. Look, you guys have been 70 million negative walking into it on a yearly basis, it seems like, just about. So you're down to only 20, 21 right now. And you can cut some of the contracts, which is probably what people are doing in your fan bases. They're doing the math on, we'll cut this guy and cut that guy and eat the dead money and roll. But I mean, the good news is I just love for you guys as a fan base is just that the organization finally chooses to take a step here to move this in this direction. And they tried to prolong, it felt, things after Payne and Breeze. And it just felt like, look, this is the right time to turn this over at this time. Just take that pain. And once you do, when you take the 1 year of pain, you oftentimes can move off of it in just such a beautiful fashion of being free and clear and not weighed down by that anchor anymore.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and the number one thing that a lot of Saints fans don't like currently, and I know a lot of Saints fans can, agree with me, we feel like we won't win another Super Bowl, maybe not even sniff a playoffs, until Mickey Loomis is gone. A lot of people don't like him just because he always wants to prove people right that I can win with this person. We just need a new GM and get him out of here just because he's just ever since Drew Brees and Sean Payton left, which was a good signing for those two. He just hasn't been the best GM. It's just we don't. A lot of people don't like him. So a lot of people are saying until he's gone, we might not sniff a playoffs or a Super Bowl, even though unless he finds him the next Sean Payton and Drew Brees somehow.
I'll tell you, it's hard not to look at Peyton going to the Broncos with the way that the Russell Wilson situation he walked into inheriting, and to then him find success, to not feel like in retrospect that Brees and Peyton doing a lot of that heavy lifting versus Loomis being like the third slice of the pie in that equation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that way?
I feel that way. I just feel like the only reason why Mickey Loomis has his job still is because of Sean Payton and Drew being so good. I just really don't. Like his hiring wasn't good. Like he tried to cover up Dennis Allen a lot. And me, I like Dennis Allen a little bit because he was a defensive minded guy. He made our defense look good. But then they had some games just be like, "Yo, what are you doing?" Like as a defensive guy, and then we just wasn't really having the best roster around us either. Like we wasn't a healthy roster every year. We was getting hurt. Injury keeps piling up. But this year you feel a little bit more excitement because you got your full roster clean out. All new people. I like Stanley's defense. I think Stanley just needs some more defensive weapons to help out. Which I know you said we were about to talk about some defense soon. So I got some positive players to talk about that are young that you should watch out for on the defensive side. But overall though, a lot of us feel like until he retires and gets out of here, or until he finds another Sean Payton and Drew Brees, we might not sniff a playoff or a Super Bowl for a long time, as long as he's there.
Well, he's had a long period of time since those guys have kind of left, or at least, through since you won the Super Bowl to show that success there, and had those. I think the 17 draft probably saved his butt, because that was it was such an awesome draft, almost historical like, and it buoyed everything up there at the end where maybe otherwise kind of it sort of like put band-aids over things that probably should have been sutured.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, 100% agree with you.
Yeah, it's tough. It was a good situation and a bad situation maybe in that one. A blessing and a curse. Michael Bicknell, thank you for the $5 donation. Michael says, who did the Saints piss off in the NFL playing 3 NFC West teams and then the Bills in the first 4 weeks? Rat was slinging it last week. Go Hawks. Yeah, kind of a tough opening break. I mean, we've got 3 unbeaten teams in this division, and then we're 1-1. And if you're right out the gate, that's a tough pull, especially a Niner team's a little older. You're getting them fresh and young in the season. Not the easiest schedule. You see other guys got to still deal with the Rams at some point too.
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of people were thinking like, okay, Rattler got named the starting quarterback. Why? You used your second round pick on this guy, and then some of those people came to the conclusion, well, if you look at the first 4 games, that's like the toughest part of our schedule throughout the whole schedule. If you really look at it, that's like your first tough 4 games. You got to get alone. You got to kind of learn how the offense is going to be flowing, right? You got to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're kind of a younger team now. New offensive coach, new roster, basically, coaching staff too. So they was like, maybe they're using Rattler for the first 4 games to see what they got in them, but also to be the cover up to where Sucks don't have to be thrown into the fire right away against the toughest teams, and then they can utilize him later on while the schedule gets easier. Some people are thinking that. I could see that, but then again, so far everything that Kellen Moore said out of his mouth, everything's been true. And what he said was whoever wins the starting quarterback, whoever gets that starting job, will go through the learning pain with them, and we'll go through that roller coaster ride up and down. It's going to be their season to show who they are. So that's the thing, and Rattler keeps playing like he did last week and just continue to build off of that. There shouldn't be a reason why they have to pull him out and give Sucks a chance. You can see what you got in Rattler all season and see if we can build off of him and put the right pieces around him, because a lot of people seen it before, right? They got other quarterbacks that were not that great back in the day that still made it to the playoffs and won Super Bowls with the right roster around them. And one person I would say who won the Super Bowl because they had a pretty good roster around him, Nick Foles. Nick Foles wasn't the best quarterback ever in the world. He was just a decent, good quarterback that helped carry the Eagles to the Super Bowl when Wentz went down. And I think if you got the right staff around those people, you're going to be successful with a good quarterback. You don't have to have the greatest elite quarterback to win because the team showed it to you that they can do it without it. So.
Well, I know he says that we're going to talk about the defense, but you're touching on this, still touching on this thing with the offense. So let's stay on this a little bit because I want to kind of hold you down on this to see where your confidence really lies on this point. You guys, let's say, are picking number 2 or number 3. Not as much because you're the worst team in the league, but partly like for the aforementioned reasons of the schedule that we just talked about. You're in a division, as say for maybe the Carolinas, got some challenging matchups that you're going to have to face. There's going to be let's say we have a draft coming up where it's one of those that have a historical one that I can show you a variety of different years it's worked out this way where it's a 1-2 quarterback draft. For instance, it looks like a lot of ways right now you're going to get maybe an Aller Cade Klubnik or Sellers and a Cade Klubnik. If you go through and you have Rattler play a real solid season but not a spectacular season, and you have all those reasons of what's holding him back as far as valid reasons to say this is why he's not showing us more, and there's the mini Mahomes aspect to him that you spoke about, do you feel confident enough if he has that kind of season to then pass upon one of the top quarterback talents in this upcoming draft? Especially if you don't have a chance to even still see Tyler Shock because they just kind of roll with Rattler because he's solid enough to maintain the solid starting job over a rookie quarterback.
I mean, to be honest with you, yeah, I'll have confidence. As long as he goes through the season, has a good season, gets about 4,000, yards, give me about 20-something touchdowns in the season, hold on to the ball and not do any picks, because so far he hasn't thrown one pick yet so far. So as long as you protect the ball and do that for me and you show me that we just need to get some better weapons around you, I think I can believe it in. And the one person, I'm not for sure if he's coming out in the draft this year, he might be, is the receiver from Ohio. That's just been the biggest number 1 receiver coming out of the NFL draft, I believe. I can't remember. I don't know if it's
He's
this
not
year
this year, brother. No,
but that's who I would go after. I would add a receiver.
I know
like him.
It's tough for you guys because you're down. There's 2 guys. Yeah, the Ryan Williams kid, the Alabama kid would have been the other guy that you would have taken a look at. The good news is that this is a draft that's got a lot of really good receivers in it. But I would have been with you on that. All over him if that would have been the guy. I mean, he's going to be probably the number 1 overall pick then the year after he comes out by that point because people are just like, gives us that one. He looks like a new Julio Jones basically. So it's like, how do you not? Thank you for all the donations. We still have a couple more donations here that we're going to get over to the defensive side of that here in a second, Hoodie. But bear with me on this. We've got to cover a little bit of a sponsorship moment here on the channel, if I can. And of course, now my thing is not coming up. Sorry, my deal is being stupid here. So there we go. Appreciate you hanging in here with me on this, Hoodie, today, by the way. 1 second here. I always got to do a bit of this live because it won't stay in the deal when you do it through. So this show is sponsored today by Sleeper. Sleeper is been hooking up here with us, the Hawks Nest, here throughout this year right now, and they're going to be doing so for the foreseeable future, which I'm very proud about. They're going to match right now if you use my code NEST up to 100% when you use their app. It's a daily fantasy app. You can get the over, the unders on these particular games. You can get in on a lot of variety of different actions from NFL, the CFB, Major League Baseball with the playoffs coming up. There's a lot of different ways you can stack up your card if you'd like to. And I'm going to get my man Hoodie here to help me build a ticket here today right now. We're going to make a couple of picks here for this upcoming game. And again, they will match you up to 100% of your first deposit. Up to $100, $100 from me to you from Sleeper app. So Hoodie, let's go through and pick a couple of these picks, and you let me know what you think maybe is tasty. I think would love to hear. We got 200 yards Hoodie for Rattler. We've got Kamara with anytime touchdowns with 1, Olave with 0.5 anytime touchdowns. You feeling good about any of those?
Only one that I feel really confident would be possibly Rattler with 200 because, he had over 200 yards last week against a, good 49ers defense. So maybe Rattler 200. But touchdowns, touchdowns are iffy. It can switch from Kamara scoring a touchdown. It can switch from Jawan Johnson, which you seen last week, scoring a touchdown. It can be a young guy like Valet that we, seen. So, Rattler's been kind of, spreading the ball around to a lot of different people.
What about the under then on Olave? Because I'm with you on Kamara. We probably don't want to do the anytime on Kamara because that's too volatile. But Olave,
touchdown for Olave. Yeah, I'd do the under on him probably.
All right, we'll go the under on him with that, and I will go with the Sam Darnold over 212. Well, your guys' run defense, it felt like in the trenches last week. I could get after that a little bit, so maybe we'll have to go with one of our. Should be some more picks here, but they're. We'll go with you get the freebie on this one with them folks, so we can take the 0.5 with Tua. That's .5 pass yards that just gives that to you. And then we'll go with the hot hand, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's had a couple of good weeks. Went up to 8.4 times your amount on that, just a $5 bet. Bring that back through to you 8 times the money on that. So please do use Sleeper today. Use my code today. Terms and conditions do apply. See their website. And Hoodie, thank you for helping me build out my deal there, man. I appreciate you doing that there.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
All right, a couple more donos here, and we will hit up on that defense. Eric Tams, thank you for the $20 donations. Says, great guest tonight. Thanks for the insight. Well, indeed, I want to echo this, folks. We always want to show love to the folks who take so much of their time out of their busy time of year right now. He's running right and left, no doubt about that. And so I've got a link down in the description section below, which is a direct link to Hoodie Jube's channel. So please do and show him the love. It's free to do this, and sub on up over to his channel. Show him some of that love on that side of it, for being so kind to come in here, and he does do a great job of covering the Saints. So always good to have a content creator who knows covering and all the good stuff going on with their team, so you can get the goods from them. But I echo that, Eric.
I do need the love, though. I'm not gonna
Needs
lie.
the love. Show him the love.
Hey, I'm leaving Friday. Okay, this Friday I'm leaving, flying out to Miami to hang out with my best friend because it's my birthday trip. Monday I'm turning big 30. I'm finally turning 30. So hey,
let's
go. I can use some birthday. Anybody want to give me 30 subs for my 30th birthday? Come on now.
Let's go. Let's get him 30 subs for his birthday. Come on, Hawks Nesters. This is what we do here. We show him the love. So get over there to Hoodie Jube. It's right in the description section. I'm going to make you search it. Just click that link in the description section below. Bang right over there. Hit that sub button. Show him some love. We're going to definitely have him back on here into the future, as we're in the NFC, man. We're going to play a decent amount through the years. You know that's going to happen. So thank you, though, Eric. Yeah. I appreciate the big time $20 donation. Very kind of you. And I echo your sentiments on that. I do. A great guest to have on, man. I really appreciate having you. I was looking forward to really having you on some of the stuff, especially in light of some of the conversations we had in recent history before. Jeffrey with another $5 donation says, felt for you guys getting ref screwed 2 years in a row in the playoffs with Drew. Saints have my favorite uniform color in the NFL, black and gold. I guess we got to talk about it a little bit, man. I know it's not a fun conversation, but I mean, it is worth talking about. You have one of the all-time moments of egregious. I mean, we had a whole Super Bowl stolen from us back in 2005. You know what I mean? Like straight just ripped from us. But we definitely also then have a lot of sympathy for those franchises who then have it undertaken. And I agree with Jeffrey. There was a back-to-back year thing with you guys, right? Because a lot of people remember this, as Jeffrey's talking about, with the Rams blatant PI just demolishing your running back. But he's also speaking about then after that, the year after. What happened the year after that with a call that also was just a brutal one that went against you guys?
Yeah, so we had, I'm going to say this, we had a lot of different. We had the Minneapolis Miracle happen to us at the last second. We had the referee no call with the Rams, right? You also had another one that was against the, trying to remember the dude's name. It might have been the Vikings. Yeah, it was the Vikings.
It's the Vikings tight end.
It was the Vikings again. Rudolph freaking had a push off that could have been called, but they didn't call the push off in there as well. But like I'll go back to the Rams. That one hurts a lot because that was our last chance to probably see a great Drew Brees, winning another Super Bowl possibly for us. And with the Super Bowl that they had, like the NFL blew that so bad because imagine if you would have called that flag. Saints win the game. And the Saints, you get to see Drew Brees versus Tom Brady for a Super Bowl. One of the greatest quarterbacks, to watch them go at it for a Super Bowl. That would have been amazing to watch. But they blew it and said, let's watch the Stafford Rams. And Stafford and them couldn't do nothing against the Patriots. It was just a boring Super Bowl. So that definitely hurt. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's the past. They know we can do at it. But trust me, there's probably still Saints fans out there that can't sleep on it.
I mean, it's one thing when bad calls go like that, when it's egregious like the Rams one, and that one's going to stand out. I thought the Rudolph one was kind of low-key, almost just as bad in my opinion, because he's fully extended off. It's about the same time of the game as the previous year one. It just comes in that one brutal moment where you go, like, no, you can't mess this up right here at this moment. This is not the time where you got to screw this thing up. I need you to, come on, play it. And especially the Rams one. It was so blatant on top of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so blatant.
Yeah, golf. That's what I meant, y'all. Yeah, the chat corrected me. The golf, yeah. I keep forgetting that golf went from the Rams to that. Yeah, golf. Yeah, right. Yeah. You had golf versus Brady, which wasn't even fun to watch. My bad, Stafford. But but yeah, we had so many, and I guess to ask y'all this too. Y'all had another Super Bowl. I felt like that y'all could have won too. and and y'all know it all the time because Beast Mode was mad about it.
Mhm.
Not getting the ball in his hand, not running in and just winning the game. I mean, what was y'all thoughts on like a play like that, knowing you got to do like Beast Mode that can just easily get an end zone and to go for a pass instead?
Well, it's like with all things in these kind of plays, the truth is really murky and hard to quite disseminate. For many different years, the thinking was that there was that should have run it, that they called the pure pass play, and it was why would you call the pass play? The coaching staff's just so stupid. Um, then we get there was an interview this last offseason with the defensive tackle that said that he ran into Russell Wilson the morning after, and Russell said he changed the play. So did Russell change it or not? And why would have Russell changed the play? I mean, some of this where I really hate, in my opinion, Hoodie, in football, this is not a sport that's simple. It's not a sport that's like other sports where a guy crosses a guy over on a basketball court and you go, boy, he broke his ankles. A guy threw a 99 mile-an-hour fastball past a bat and you go, man, he just blew him away. It's not that, but fans want to apply that simplified view on everything at times, and because it makes it easier to understand. And the problem is that there's so much that goes into every decision at times. It's just not that. It's not that simple. The Patriots push that issue by going to goal line. So like you play Madden. What do you do Madden first? Offense calls the play with the formation. Defense matches it, right? Same thing in the NFL. That's how it typically tends to work. So Belichick, being a smart coach, said, "I'm going goal line here first and foremost." Kind of giving a little bit of a to use the cheese on the trap, deal of, oh, let's see if we can get them to go into three wide. Can we counter them off of three wide, which is not going to be a good run look? First going heavy with Marshawn, bigger with Marshawn, match body for body with Marshawn, which they didn't do. They did go to three wide because they noticed that you're giving us this advantage. We're going to take advantage of it. That's kind of smart. That's the part where maybe Bill should give a little bit of credit to on this, where everybody just wants to simply go, give it to Marshawn, give it to Marshawn. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have given it to Marshawn. I'm just saying that, again, there was a lot that kind of went into what make that happen in that moment. Did Russell change the play or not? I don't know. Could I see a reason why he would have? Yes, you're coming up the line of scrimmage. You have a run play called out of shotgun. You're looking at a heavy formation. You think, I'll go to this pass play and bing, bang, boom, I'm going to go get some success off the back of it. You had not one ball intercepted at the goal line that whole NFL season. Not one. Zero. So he's playing a little, quarterback's maybe playing to the odds a little bit on it, but what's the truth? What isn't? Who knows? I will just say, though, that from my perspective on it, I see this with a lot of things when it comes to quarterbacking. You've kind of intimated this with Rattler, right? You probably feel it a bit in your fan base, where it's just drive to just sort of paint them into the corner of not this, not that, can't do it. It's like, well, wait, no, there's more gray here. There's more gray here than the black and white they're trying to paint.
Yeah.
HHG, thank you for the $2 donation. Says we could have a Brady Breeze Super Bowl. Would have been better than the one we got. You know what I mean? Would have been better than the one we got.
Oh, yeah.
Mumbles coming in with $100 donation here. Thank you for hanging on with me here, Hoodie. Appreciate you for that, Mumbles. With $150 and then another $50 donation. So Mumbles coming in, dropping $200 in donations back to back here on the channel, showing some love. Thank you for that. Mumbles, you're the man. I appreciate you. Promises made, promises kept. Wish I bet on the 49ers since they were the only pick I got right and didn't put them on the ticket. Let's make that hat sting a little less today and keep Megan from breaking my kneecaps. She can put the bat down now. Much love, Brando. Oh, well, thank you, Mumbles. Mumbles laid a big old fat bet here this past weekend, and he hit. He landed on it, which is great to hear. I guess I'm getting some of the benefit of that, but he's also shown the love, and he's done it before. Mumbles, you are awesome. Megan, it's okay. You can put the bat away. He's going to, he's going to pay up. He's going to pay up. It's going to be okay. But I did also lose a week one bet, Hoodie. I bet a 49er fan that if we lost, I'd have to wear a Niner hat, and they're putting me in the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen in your life. It is. I've got to wear on this NFC West Roundtable show I do, and it's the worst. It's the worst hat you can imagine. Like, picture the most silliest looking 49er hat I'm wearing. It's that, and then maybe a little worse. Mumbles, thank you for another $50 donation. 150 and 50. You are awesome, brother. I appreciate you for that. Some love, as Brandon put it, mate. The reset hurts, but it needs to be done at some point. You can get back up there. Would love to see it. I echo everything he just said there, Hoodie. I think you guys doing this now and starting this process is so smart. You got a great fan base out there. like to see guys get back to rising back to prominence and making some noise out there. And I do just feel like the big part that's been as much, maybe Mickey's been holding you off. Maybe he just doesn't have the bullets in the gun anymore to make it go. But I do just feel like that kicking the can down the road thing we talked about a couple of years ago just kept holding on and kept being kicked, and you just refused to just own up to it. And he especially, because then he had to own up to it was my mistakes. It was I that was unable to get us short through all that time period. If he did,
Mm-hmm.
kind of end up dealing with the ego of the guy as much as anything. Well, I know we've pulled you pretty long here, but let's talk if we can a little bit about your defense if we can. You mentioned some young players that you are excited about, maybe building some young building block points up on this defense. Who are some guys that we should be watching for this year? I saw you had Granderson up there at 4 sacks right now, kind of leading the team through on that. Interested to hear where you are with Brian Breesy, the Clemson kid you took a couple of years ago, and his progress and development. Seems like he's a blocker of kicks, a knocker down of balls at the line of scrimmage with those big long arms.
Oh yeah, I mean some of the young guys. You mentioned 2 of them. Granderson, very good off the edge. Also, another one is Brian Breesy. I like him a lot. Some of our Saints fans think he cheats for some reason. I don't understand how you call a nose tackle that got 7 sacks last year as a nose tackle. I don't know how that's terrible. I mean, most nose tackle might get 2 sacks. 3 is that because the nose tackle. You're mainly stuffing the run and it's hard to get through up the middle, but. I don't know what it is. I don't even know what Brzee does, but he somehow pushes the pressure and finds a way to the quarterback almost every time. And most of the time, I think this dude can have more sacks, but sometimes this dude is putting pressure on the offensive lineman that's pushing him, right? That he's pushing back to get to him. And then when he finally gets his hand and reaches out, the quarterback, all they got to do is do a little spin, and he's going in the opposite direction, right? So that's what kind of stops Brzee. But other than that, he is somebody you do want to watch out for, especially coming up the middle. The Mario, man, he's not young, but the Mario, he's still not. This dude is aging, but he's not aging, if you know what I mean. Like, he's just playing at a high level still for his age. One guy I do want to see on the field a little bit is Danny Stutzman, linebacker at Oklahoma. He is a certified stud that can tackle. So I want to see some more of him, but he's been really on special teams lately. I feel like he's going to be the replacement of DeMario once he leaves. I think it's going to be Pete Warner and Danny Stutzman as our linebackers once DeMario retires. Another young guy that I like that played last week, who showed a little bit of promises, was Jonas Sinker out of Virginia Tech. He finally got to start this week because Blackman going down with an injury already and possibly out for the season. So Sinker is another certified tackler, and if you go back and watch some of the clip of him last week, anytime that you start Chris McCaffrey was about to score in open space because Chris McCaffrey is Chris McCaffrey, Sinker was always tackling him, and I just loved the way this dude did because that was the one thing the Saints missed the last couple of years, right? We just could not tackle. We was allowing big plays, chunk plays because we just could not tackle, and Sinker and Stutzman is going to help us out tremendously on that side. Once they add Stutzman, and once we see a little bit more Sinker, that's going to help out a lot. Another young guy, you probably heard of his name a few times, Alontae Taylor. Watch out for him getting in the blitz package because he does play corner, but sometimes they blitz him. And when he blitz, you don't know when it's coming. And when he gets there, he just gets your quarterback. No matter, even if you're a good scrambling quarterback. He got Kyler Murray so good in week 1 on a blitz that was really important because it got us the ball back to where we almost won the game. But, DeJuan Johnson wound up not coming down with it. So that would be another young guy. I do like Kool-Aid, but the last, I'll say, week or 2, he kind of struggled just a little bit. But, Kool-Aid is another young guy I'll watch out as well. But if y'all really want to have great success this week, just pass on number 27, Isaac Yeadham. Pass on him all day. He's wide open. So anybody is listening, if you are the offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, I know you very well because you coached for our team last year. Just literally go and attack Isaac Yeadham, and you will be successful this game. That's all I can say about that, right?
Isolate and attack. I love that. That's nice. So I imagine that they probably will. Alontae's a fun player to watch on tape. He's very fast. He's flying around a lot. So, definitely go at a bit of the weakness. You guys basically trust your front four to mainly get the pressure. It still looks like for the most part. There's a few blitzes here and there, but it's more of just kind of a change-up thing that you do more than, trying to really attack in that manner. Is that a fair outlook on it, defensively speaking?
Yeah, I guess you can say we run more of a zone instead of a man now compared to Dennis Allen was more of a
Yeah.
man to man kind of defense. This is more kind of a zone, and I feel like until this team gets more chemistry and until we start adding some of the younger guys like the certified tacklers, we're gonna allow a lot of big chunk plays here and there just because they're not up to par yet. Because when you're running a zone, you got to make sure you're in the right position and the right spot, right, to where that play doesn't form in front of you. But for the most part, the defense has been pretty good. If you look at the last two games, they kind of allow some points in the first half, and but in the second half they make an adjustment and don't allow as much. Like last week against the Niners, they scored 16 on us in the first half. Second half they only scored 10. You look in the week before that with the Cardinals, they kind of had a good start, but after that we kind of just shut them down in the second half, and that's how we made that comeback. So um, I would say y'all should be able to see some points on the board in the first half for sure, because it seems like they always find a way to adjust in the second half, but it's always the first half they just slow starts. I can say that's the word, slow starts. That's what us right now. We've been slowly starting, and then we start picking up the pace towards the second half. And we can't be doing that. We need to start from the jump, right? Right when the gates open, start playing hard, and that's the issue. But like I said, for the most part, it's mainly a zone run defense, and the one guy. He's not young, but we added him to the roster to help out with the run defense is Godchuk, that we got from the Patriots. He is a good run stuffer.
Okay. I'll keep an eye on those guys. McKinstry was an interesting guy scouting him coming out because my comp for him, I swear to God, was Lattimore. And then you guys went and picked him, and that was my comp coming into it. So he looks so similar, though, to me on Lattimore coming out of the tape at Alabama, where it just really stood out. But he's been pretty good, though, for you, rounding into shape.
Besides week one was terrible for him. He got burnt a few times.
Okay.
But like I said, in the second half, he kind of made up for it. But yeah, he let Marvin Harrison Jr. work him in week one, I would say. But other than that, I think he's all right. I think he can become a starting cornerback. What I say, I'm so confident right now in him to be cornerback number one. No, if I had to pick a quarterback one on the team right now, it would be Alontae Taylor. I just feel like he's more, more ready and just needs the opportunity, to be on the outside corner because they moved him to the inside last year and then they moved him back to the outside this time. And sometimes they use him as for blitzing too. So like you just don't know where Alontae's gonna be lining up on that defense.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And just look for idiom. That's the key, though. Just target idiom. Whoever he is,
Just
maybe
look
going
for
to make
Edom.
Edom.
Yep. Just
All day
attack Edom
long.
all game. Wherever Edom's at, that's where you need to go. So technically, if the Saints really want to play good defense and not allow y'all to score, just put everybody around Edom and we good. Because they're gonna attack him the most, right?
Hey, I'll go where you're weak, man. That's sometimes the smartest thing offenses do is not try to attack strength on strength, but I'll go where your weakness is at. That's what Braid did for years. He'd go after the third or fourth corner on the team, wherever that weak point was, and just hammer it just over and over again. A couple last donations here. Mumbles or Megan, thank you for the $2 donation. Mumbles, you're okay. She says, no chance, Mumbles. Your kneecaps are mine. No, he dropped 200. He's safe. I got to call you off. We got to call him off here, Megan. He dropped a couple donuts. We're good. Keon Lund with a $5 donation. He's got a question for you, Hoodie. And thank you for all of your guys' donations today. Says, who are your favorite all-time Saints quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and defensive player? Only pick one for each, please.
Well, QBs is the easiest thing. Drew Brees, one of my favorite quarterbacks. Watching, running back. There's a few of them I liked. I used to like Mark Ingram's attitude. I loved him. I loved Deuce McAllister as well. But if I had to pick all around running back, it has to be Kamara. Kamara just did both running and receiving. I just love Kamara. Wide receiver though, that's the one
No
that I
Ricky
can't even
Williams?
pick one. No, I don't even care for Ricky Williams, man. That we wasted too many picks on him for nothing. That was the dumbest. That might be the dumbest trade ever to get him. Just to get him. But receiver
Sorry,
though.
bro. I'm sorry, bro.
No,
I
you
shouldn't.
good. Receiver is the toughest though. Receiver's the toughest. Cause there's three people I really like of all time for receivers. It would have to be out of Marcus Coulson, Michael Thomas, or Joe Horn. I like those three. Those like my favorite growing up. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna just go Cosin because he was long term. While Michael Thomas hasn't been able to play because of his injury, and you don't even see him play anymore right now. So I have to say Marcus Cosin, and then defensive player. I love Mario Davis right now, but there's a guy that's been around way longer than him, and he's still here playing, and that's got to be Cam Jordan.
Mm.
I love Cam Jordan. Now, if you want me to pick somebody older than him that's not even in the NFL anymore, it would have to be Jonathan Vilmer. I used to love him as a linebacker. Very smart linebacker. Which is really crazy. Like, if you really kind of look at the scenario, did you notice that Vilmer came from the Jets, right? And then wound up finishing his career in the New Orleans Saints. Mario Davis came over from the Jets, finished his career with the Saints. You get what I'm saying? It's just like, who's the next Jets linebacker that's going to come to the Saints and be a great Saints linebacker? I don't know who, but it's going to happen eventually because it already happened twice. So who's going to be the third one? I don't know.
We're doing that to the Rams right now. We got our Ernest Jones. We took off them, and then we took one of their guys. They had their 5th-round pick this year in the draft, too. We stole him as well, so off the practice squad. So you guys had some pretty good guys in the 90s, too, there. I think you had a couple Hall of Famers there on that those Bobby Air Bear teams out there with Jim Mora. A couple of really nice defensive players on those squads, too. So,
Oh yeah, the Dome Patrol,
That's right.
But the only reason why I don't pick them as one of my favorite players just because I wasn't even probably born in that era, to be honest with you,
fair.
or I wasn't even into it, as much. But like people that I watched growing up, I would have to definitely choose Drew Brees, Kamara, Marcus Cosin, and most likely, like I said, Cam Jordan or Jonathan Vilma. But I'm not gonna lie, I think the one person that's building on me a lot is Demario, dude. He's just he's kind of like me now. Not everybody's gonna be like me, but I'm more religious now. Started going back to church, and he's just a believer in God, and I just like the way he speaks at the podium, and it's just what he does for the city and how much he puts his hard-earned money into the city. It just shows you how much respect I got for him, and DeMario could wind up being one of my favorites of all time eventually, depending on how much longer he plays.
On top of it all, he plays tremendously hard every week, whether you guys are in the games or out of the games. That's a guy that's flying around a lot of the same way the guy you saw opposite on the other side in that game, Fred Warner, last week. They both operate with that same kind of reckless abandonment spirit you want your inside linebackers to operate with on a football field, and easy to see why he's kind of one of your favorites. By the way, Mumbles on that $50 donation, that was on your side, by the way. So I think he had that $50 drop on your side, but I don't know. So thank you for Mumbles showing our guests the love like that today on the stream.
Appreciate
I really do appreciate you for that, man. You are awesome. And everybody is awesome, man, for so much of the support today. I really appreciate you for hanging in here well over an hour on the channel here, Hoodie. And good picks there on the quarterback, running back, wide receiver. I mean, Ricky was nice, though. I mean, I can see why you're mad about the picks, but Ricky was, he was nice,
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the old coach, too. I'm just thinking, like, really? This dude was really a head coach here and wasted all these picks for one dude, and it didn't even work out, for us? I mean, I don't know. I think it was one of the worst things, but, I mean, nothing can be, to be honest with you, I don't think nothing ever can be worse than wasting a pick on a guy like Jamarcus Russell.
That's about as bad as it gets, I think, as draft picks go, especially number one overall, picks. And yeah, I think that there's a few different ones you can kind of look at as all-timer or worst ones, but he's the one you always have to have in the conversation there and especially you can see it coming. There's ones where you have bad picks that might not work out at the quarterback position, and there's intelligence that goes around to why the pick happened. It didn't work out, but didn't mean the process was stupid. I think the process is pretty stupid when you don't even, whether the guy knows whether the guy can study or not when you're picking him. But that's what you get with a bad owner, man. It's bad owner. Much a bad GM will hold you back. A bad owner will sink you in a heartbeat if you have that rolling. So, it's tough to have the GM bad, but owner is worse, I would say, significantly. Should Mickey get if this is a middling season, if this is a 5-6 win season, time to boot Mickey?
I don't know. I think he's everybody wants him gone. Everybody wants Mickey Loomis gone, regardless, But the thing is, I just don't ever think he's going to be gone because of one reason. He's just so attached to Mrs. Bisson, She just really loves Mickey, and I just think it's going to be hard to get rid of him. It's just really going to be hard. Like, I would get rid of him eventually, and then let somebody else take control, like a real GM. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, the Bears GM kind of shot me for a while, like getting all these good different trades, good stuff happening, and then next thing you know, the Bears just haven't done nothing since. But I like the trades, I like the stuff they were doing. Us over here, we don't really do nothing. Like they always say, oh well, we tried to trade for them, we put our nose, in it, but we didn't come out with nothing. It's just I want to see us take some chances at some stuff and try something new, instead of just saying, oh we tried but we didn't.
That's one of the downsides of being financially restricted. You can't take on salary. You can't move a guy because you got to worry about the acceleration of this bonus that's going to hit the books that we can't afford to have it hit the books. It's why you got to keep the books clean year in and year out to a degree. And when you choose to go for it at the right time, not when you're in a state where you're not quite sure about who you are and what you're going to be that upcoming year. And I always say, man, on this hoodie, my big theory on this, again, we'll wrap up real soon here, is just teams are in 4 different states. You're ascending, you're rebuilding, or you're caught in purgatory, or you're elite. And you don't go from ascending to purgatory to elite. You go from ascending to elite, but sometimes you get stuck in purgatory. And your franchise, my franchise, has been this place recent years a little bit, has been kind of a time stuck in a bit of purgatory in their thinking because they couldn't necessarily say, wait, now's not the right time. We got to actually be a little patient in our process. That's football, man. You think you can turn around so fast. So it's just, it tricks you that way that, no, this year, this can be this our year. If we just, this year goes this way and that goes our way, when this guy develops, we'll be fine.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask y'all a question though. Like, what was y'all thought this year? Well, not this year. I guess the last few years. Moving on from Russell Wilson and all that, and then finally moving on from Pete Carroll. Like, what was y'all thoughts on stuff like that?
Well, the same thing I'm advocating for you guys on what you guys did. We did, I think. The Russell Wilson situation, what we did this last offseason, there's a lot of players that we had kind of at the end of a line and trying to make that sort of second, third area run after the Legion of Boom time. I'm not talking about just directly after, but you're a couple generations afterwards, and you tried to make a run with these players, the Lockett's, the Metcalfs. And then it would have been easy for us to kind of just keep doing a little bit of that, frankly, kicking the can down the road thing you guys don't. We'll just keep signing the guy up. Just keep signing the guy up rather than make some hard decisions. And that's what I'm advocating for here, is that smart organizations that want to become contenders actually have to make hard decisions. They actually have to bleed a little bit of blood. And we bled some blood in moving on from Russell, and we got a bevy of picks for it. And we bled some blood this offseason by moving on from DK and Gino. But we probably are going to get a benefit of it because smart choices in the long term. And that's what happened 3 years ago. We started making, it seems to me, more decisions on the long-term building of this thing, get more young talent in here, reinvest in the offensive line. And now I think we're starting to get those fruits coming forward. But that's why I'm a big advocate for this, because I'm seeing it work in real time, Houday. And I've seen it in your organization sometimes be one that Mickey is just very hesitant, for the reasons we've talked about in this stream, not to engage that in the way he does. Kind of engage it, kind of go. But I got to say, when I see 2026, you still got $21 million of dead money walking into that offseason. You still ain't owned it, man. That's not what I'm talking about, but the year after it's there, and it's maybe at least starting to kind of move in that place, but it should have been done a couple of years ago. We talked about it, and I got to give you credit. You advocated for it when we talked a couple of years ago to go that direction, despite being a little bit more successful where your organization was at that time. You were still, to your credit, saying, no, it's okay. Payne's at the end of the line. Breeze is moving off. It's the right time. It's an okay time to go in this direction.
Oh yeah, no more Breeze, no more Sean Payton, right? And I think a lot of people, like, I still respect Sean Payton to today for bringing the Super Bowl to us, doing what he did. But a lot of us are still a little salty about him because you had so many opportunities to get our next franchise quarterback, but you wanted to win so bad with Drew Brees. You wanted to help, and you knew soon as he left, you was going to be ready to move on to a different franchise, and you just left us in the dust with nobody, so that's where kind of people are a little salty about it, just because remember we had opportunity to get a Lamar Jackson, we almost had opportunity to get Patrick Mahomes, we had opportunities to get other quarterbacks, but we decided to keep running it back, with Breeze we're going to win it eventually, and it just never did. And then when it finally happened, he stayed for one more year, and then he said I'm going to retire, when in reality he just wanted to get out of New Orleans and try a fresh start somewhere else, which he did. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think you got to mention he was a big advocate right there with Mickey and driving hard like they were through those time periods, to your point. And you go, you're going to drive hard with that, then own the mess you create on the other side of it. Don't start bailing off the mess when you're like, wow, that's a mess. Let me get to a different franchise where I can have a bit of a reset, and find something that can, work to it. So we'll see how it goes there with Peyton in it. I think he's doing a good job with Denver, but definitely he left you guys. Mickey's left you guys in that bit. But again, we can see the light on the horizon line, right? It's cresting up a little bit, and it is there for you guys. You got some good young talent still on this team. Not as much of the aging guys on there. The cap's getting in a better position. It's going to be maybe a bit of a season that's you're going to have to kind of still go through a little bit of it. We talked about though, you're not going to be the worst. You guys carve out 5, 6, 7, even up to 8 wins, especially in that division where a lot of things can happen. No guarantee Tampa Bay and Atlanta are going to be the top of the pop there either. It could be one of those kind of everything's kind of muddled in on the division when it's all said and kind of done on that one. So I think the future is still bright for you, Hoodie. I do think maybe not right now at this moment. Give me, if you can, a score prediction for this game.
Well, I mean, if we were looking back at like the last 2 games, so let me put this up just so I can kind of tell you how it went with the Cardinals and the 49ers. Unfortunately, the 49ers should have not really had as many points as they did on us because, you know what I'm saying, Matt Jones. But then again, you got to think of it. Kyle Shanahan is a good offensive-minded coach, and he's kind of like Sean Payton. You know, he can win with whatever quarterback you give him, you know, and with the weapons. So, but I think both games, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Saints – so the Saints scored 13, and we held the Cardinals to 20. Then the final game, we lost 26-21. So against y'all, we're playing against the 12, you know, so you got the extra help back there at home with the 12s. Y'all more established than what we are. But I think it's going to be a hard fight, again, by Rattler. He's going to keep improving to get better and better. We are wearing our color rust this weekend, by the way, too. The white uniforms with the white helmets, the new white helmets this year. So that's gonna be all white out. So that's gonna be nice to look at. But I'm gonna say we lose this one still, just because I feel like we're gonna still be fighting to try to get better. I still feel like we're gonna shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit. So if I had to guess, last game was 26-21. I'll say this one will be 27. I'd say 27-21. Y'all. I say y'all win by 6.
Sounds pretty realistic to me as far as an outcome for this game. So, but he's got us barely coming out of this one. I see it being tight. I think you see your Saints team just being one of those kind of just hard teams. You can't make them go away. They're going to be right there on your heels. They maybe get a little ahead of you. You're going to be in a dog. You're going to be in a bit of that back alley kind of fight with them a little bit. They're not going to just lay over for you. Keon Lund with a nice donation on your end, finishing us off right here with a $5. Thank you for that, Keon. He says, "Hoodie hoo." Yeah, you got by far one of the best names that matches to the New Orleans Saints, Hoodie Jube. Such a perfect name for the Saints fan channel. Like it's perfect. It's perfect, man. So I thank you for coming on today and taking the time, almost an hour and a half out of your schedule here. I know it's busy, but it's really appreciated here on my end, man.
I got nothing else to do, so I was off today. You know, I had to few finish thing because remember I'm going on my trip Friday, so I had to get some stuff done. But other than that, I'm just chilling. So like, if you got any other thing you got to talk about that you know of, I'm still here for a little bit. Unless you're ready to go, that's up to you though.
Well, no, I'm gonna probably bounce this because I got that NFC West roundtable I got to do tonight pretty soon.
Damn, you gotta wear that hat too, huh?
I gotta wear that hat. You want to see the hat?
Yeah, I can
show it to you. You gotta see it. Hold on one second. I'll show you the hat.
Gotta see the hat.
All right.
That's the hat. Wow. Out of all hats, yeah. It couldn't just be a hat like mine with just the logo on it.
No. It's a Niner fan. This is what you get with a Niner fan. I would tell you I'm surprised, but I kind of wouldn't have expected less. So, it's it goes part and parcel on that one where I said, yeah, all right, here we go. Who do you think is going to win that division this year? If not you guys,
I say Bucks.
You got the Bucks.
The Bucks are just are good offensively, like good enough offensively. Like when I say good, I think they're gonna be a top 5 offense this year. It's just their defense got to get better. They're gonna have to. The offense is gonna definitely have to win the games, but they definitely got on something in Ibuka. And then once Godwin comes back, and if Godwin can be his old self, just imagine have to go Mike Evans, Ibuka, and Godwin. That's just,
they got
Bucky Irvin back there.
Bucky Irvin, yeah. They got that kid too, Washington, that they drafted as well a while ago. So
yeah, they got them an offensive squad. The defense is okay, but for the most part, that offense is gonna be hard to stop, especially with Baker at helm too. By the way, I shout out to Baker. I always been a fan of Baker just because I feel like Cleveland did him dirty, and he finally got his opportunity going to different teams and finally found his home with the Bucks.
Yeah, and he's taken it's you always give a tip of the nod to the guys that had a tough first or second stop and they've had to wait for their opportunity. And we had Gino here, and I was a big guy with a lot of Gino for that same reason, where you just put the work in, you don't complain, you don't bitch, you don't moan, you just say, hey, I got to grind to get that next opportunity. When I do, I'm going to take full advantage of it and take it with two hands and run with it and not let it go. So they're a good team. They did lose Cansey today for the year. That's a big loss with him, torn pectoral muscle. So he's going to be gone for the year. I think that's a big blow for them because he's pretty dynamic up front for them and what he brings. So I can see it going that way. It's open division right now. I think it's kind of anybody at Carolina. I'm not a big Bryce Young guy. I don't think. I don't think. I just can't be sold on. I was
That
watching
might be the worst trade. That might be the worst trade ever. Trading all what they have for him. 'Cause they traded multiple first round picks and DJ Moore.
Yeah. Well, I and him as a first round quarterback, I just don't get it. You know, you got a guy that's maybe got arm strength. If he's not deficient, it's like average, below average height, below average size, average mobility, maybe at best. And you're making that the number one overall pick. And everybody wanted to do that. The Mahomes minus 3 inches thing is what everybody tried to sell it on. It's like he doesn't have Mahomes' arm strength. It's just it, to me never made a lot of sense as to why that was the pick to go with there. Too many limitations for number one.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what's your prediction for this weekend? What you're thinking? Like the score
I
would
think
be.
you're probably in about the close place of it. I think that we probably score up around 27 to 30 points in the game. The 21 points that you guys might garner is possible. I could see us kind of holding down because the defense is really coming forward this year. The part that could factor is we don't have Witherspoon or Emawari, so we're down a little bit of some corner depth, but we've got everybody out there healthy defensively speaking. In the first two games, they've been very impressive for the most part. Niners got to move the ball, but they were able to kind of hold them back a little bit on that. And then last week against the Steelers, they really, closed them down. The main thing that we're doing too is we're getting the pressure without blitzing. So it's just we drop 7 into coverage, run the 4, and we're getting home on that. And the under 2.5 second thing, it's like I think we're leading the NFL in pressures right now at like something like 40%, 45%, something like that. So
So we got to
I think.
watch out for Big Boy. What was his name? He came from the Giants, right?
Oh, sorry. 1 second. 1 second here.
You got. Trying to remember that name, y'all. I think it was Williams or something.
Sorry, I saw somebody in my backyard. I was like, "What the hell's going on?" Um,
The big
yeah,
boy from the Giants. Was this Leonard or something like
Leonard
that?
Williams. Leonard Williams.
Yeah,
Well, he came
yeah.
for us last year, and he had a Defensive Player of the Year like season for us, especially down the stretch when he got banged up early in the year. But he's been a monster for us, And we got Byron Murphy a couple of years ago. You're talking about Brian Breesy having a hard time generating pressure from the one tech nose tackle position, which it is because you're lined up often between the center and the guard. You're going to eat up the double teams, and that's rough. And so you have a harder time getting pressure, but we've had to relegate Byron Murphy over to that spot partly because Leonard Williams has been so dynamic as a guy just penetrating all around as a run defender and as a pass rusher. It's like, he's found a kind of another level to his career since coming here to Seattle from what he was, because he was always a hyper talented guy, high draft pick, but he got stuck on the Jets and the Giants, and I'll tell you, I think Hoodie, one of the places that you can look at as a place to like look for guys that I've learned at over time with this, that I think our general manager does this, is look for those players defensively who might be in a situation where they're good players, but they've been on a bad team potentially at times. And you got to really concentrate on what they're doing to kind of pull this away from it a little bit. But you take those guys, can't undersell the fact of being in a loser situation and what that does to the spirit of a good player, and then how that can kind of depress their production within that, to when you put him in an environment where you are trying to go for it, where he does feel like we've got a chance to do something, and then what that can do to kind of invigorate a little bit of that extra passion to me, in my opinion, it's not like they go, he's going to destroy the game plan on you guys, but just that he's a
Yeah.
problem up front, and especially for, Ruiz will probably match up at times. We're running kind of under fronts where it's like, we'll go weak side with the nose, and then we'll flip Leonard over there onto your right guard to get the one-on-ones. And it's kind of, what do you want, so we got Byron to the weak side edge in between and try to force that matchup because, he's a problem. He is. He's hard to block. He's so big and he's so long.
Yeah. And the other question I want to ask you, what about linebackers? Like who y'all got on there that you because I think the last linebacker that I remember from y'all that was really great was Bobby Wagner, and I know he's not there anymore. So like, who's y'all linebackers now?
I think Ernest Jones is the inside. He's our Mike right now, and he's been absolutely fantastic. We traded a 4th-round pick for him last year, and he was a tackle machine. He really changed the nature of him and Tyrese Knight, both the other starting linebacker, when he was injected in the lineup last year too. 4th-round pick out of UTEP. when both those two guys got in the field together, you were basically able to take a what was an issue in stopping the run and almost turn it into a strength in your ability to stop the run. He's just a tackling machine who's actually been able to give you some plays in coverage. He made a pick down the field as a cover two linebacker running right up the seam there, 20 yards down the field, high pointing the ball up against the Niners in week one. He's really shown some things in his coverage. He's finally healthy now. Both those two guys are really good. Knight, second year guy coming up, coming along. He played well last week as well. You know, those guys are going to be 1-2 in tackles for you every single week, just like you'd like to see, as opposed to like having a cornerback or safety be your number one tacklers week in and week out. So they're good all around players. That the thing that this defense does that is kind of common now in the NFL is, you've hybridized, especially out of nickel looks, the way you run your front four. So you run your edges a little wider now, and you're running like a 3-4 edges. That's how you have them standing up, usually spread out. And then the interior, you're running like a 4-3 defensive tackle positioning. So it's a 3 tech and a 1 tech. And then you have those natural, real big gaps then that exist between the edges to the defensive tackles. So where you potentially can, get into that, run some duo blocks at the point of attack, there's a nice big amount of natural holes there, but this then really requires those inside linebackers to get down, fill the gap, and oftentimes then get off a second level climber. Like, they're not in a defense that's going to let them always be free and run and just go find the play. They're going to have to sometimes dip around that block because you're running a little bit of a lighter front up front, so you can have more guys on the back end dropping kind of into coverage there a little bit. And then he mixes that up, of course, Mike, with the stack fronts, simulated pressures, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the last question to ask you is, what do y'all think so far about OC Clint Kubiak? Because us as Saints fans, I know we didn't have much for him to work with once everybody started to go down. But we did notice a pattern with him. Yes, he's got a lot of creative plays. He's smart, kind of like his dad. But the only downfall that we seen with him last year was he would draw up some really good plays and stuff in the first half, but he just did not know how to adapt in the second half if something was stopped in the first half. Like, he just don't know how to change the game plan in the second half if we need to. That was, an issue for us last year. So I wasn't sure in the first 2 games if y'all seen that yet or if he's been kind of consistent.
Well, I think it's probably a fair thing to raise in the game in week 1. It was odd. We were in a lot of shotgun, and we didn't run a lot of the play action under center stuff, which is supposed to be the real commonality of this. I mean, we just left an air raid offense with Grubb the prior year, which was all about shotgun, and we saw the limitations of that. And he just kind of stuck it with it throughout the whole majority of the game, really, never really pivoting off. Last week, it was the other way. I feel like after halftime, they came back down by 7, and he found some adjustments offensively within what they did, and they were able to score some points into that half. And I am a little educated on this one, having gone back and watched a lot of the All-22 of the Saints last year in preparation for Kubiak coming here. And I'll just say, and I told you this on the Rattler thing, and I think it's the same thing to Kubiak. There was nobody out there that was going to save that situation last year with where the injuries were at, offensively speaking. It wasn't happening. And the thing that you got to me look at with Kubiak is look at what he did in that first 6 games. Look at, okay, that's a new offensive coordinator coming to your team, which is everybody wants to tell you when you get a new OC, you're going to have to wait through this 1 year of timeline just for he can teach his terminology, get all the finer tuned details, get all of this extra stuff right. So he comes onto that Saints team, which is not exactly a loaded roster offensively speaking, does have the full health out the gate. You're dropping 40 burgers on the Cowboys game 1. You're explosive throughout those 6 games. And then once you get to the point of the injury devastation, and that's what it was, then the offense went into tank. When you had a rookie 5th-round quarterback playing, the offense didn't have answers. Well, what answers were there at that point? He couldn't at times call a 7-step drop with that pass protection. There's certain things that got torn out of that playbook because of those injuries. Once you lose Olave, you've got Rashid Shaheed and Juwan Johnson. I mean,
Rasheed got hurt too because he got hurt. Lily Rattler had. This is the crazy part. That's why I said drove the 0-6 out the window from last year with Rattler, because Olave played one down, like one play. Like the first play was to throw to him, and he got hurt and was out for the rest of the year with the concussion or whatever. And then 2 drives later, Shaheed got hurt and was out for the season. So the dude played 2 drives basically with either Chris Olave and Shaheed. The rest of the season, this dude's drawing to practice squad players and receivers that we got undrafted or drafted in the late rounds, like 6th or 7th round. It was terrible. So that's why I said I want to draw that out the window, and I want to start off fresh this year. So he might be 0-2 right now, but it's not the 0-2 like you seen last year where we were just couldn't do nothing. Like we actually scoring now. It's just can we put everything together without making a mistake? Because Kelly Moore said we are a team that cannot make the mistakes because if we make the mistakes and make too many of them, we're gonna lose. We're killing ourselves. Like we only got a small sample to try to beat anybody that we play against, and if you make those little tiny mistakes, that can ruin the game because he knows it too. The roster ain't there where he needs it to yet. He knows. He even says it. He knows the roster ain't there yet. So,
Littler room for error, basically. And yeah, I think that is very much the case. And sometimes, look, it's 2 games of small sample size and 2 tough opponents you're playing, and that part matters. This stuff's all going to kind of shake out over the course of the season and regression to the mean if you were on that one. And I do think your team's going to win its share of games this year, and that it's not a bottom dregs team here that we're taking on this week. This is not a team that isn't going to give us a big challenge on both sides of the ball, especially with how you can attack on offense. And that is a little bit of where the weakness will lie. Wider box, dropping guys into coverage. You throw 10 of those swing passes to Kamara over the course of the game, slash screens, and he might go get 80, 90 yards in the back of that and then give you another 70, 80 yards rushing. And that could be enough for you to control the clock and keep the time possession and put enough points on there. So this is not a guaranteed win by any measure. I'm not going to look at this as anything close to being a blowout. I think it's going to be close when it's all said and done. We might kind of win somewhat comfortably when we get down to the end a little bit, but I do see this being one that, you guys have enough of a challenge there. And again, I'm consistent on this thing too with the whole Rattler thing, where it's just I'm low on him, but I'm open to being wrong on it. And you can't tell until you actually get him that real supporting structure and it's really fully locked in. I'd even say right now where it's like they've invested in the line, but you still do have a rookie left tackle out there for him. It's always tough. You're giving a young quarterback a rookie tackle that he's, the ups and the downs that you got to deal with. But Fuaga is going to be nice for you guys. That guy I loved. He's one of my blue chip guys coming out. He's going to be sensational for you guys in the long term. Love that guy. I don't know about the Penning to left guard thing. That feels more like a salvage situation. And that trade was so dumb on your guys' part. Let's not do that again, okay? No more Roseman first-round pick trades, okay?
No, I mean, the one bad thing, I think, where Mickey Loomis kind of sucked, too, and, Dennis Allen kind of had his hands in it, too, was going after big-size players from small colleges just because the size and the athlete they are, but none of them could stay healthy. None of them could make plays because they wasn't healthy, and that's what it's showing so far. It's just like, let's go for big boys and size, but let's pick from a small college that doesn't really play against nobody. So
that's where a lot of mistakes. And to your point, that's where's the rest of the NFL going general manager wise? It's a lot of the bigger schools with the NIL stuff because everybody's basically now more than ever getting sucked up in like a vacuum cleaner to the NIL schools. So the small school people, the GMs that are looking at small schools is lesser than ever, really, or at least especially picking high in that respect. They just don't trust or have the faith in it because of that. So we'll see with Loomis, man. You might be in for a little bit more. Sounds like he's got a good relationship with the owner, and you may be in for a little bit more bumpy ride. He's not a bad GM. It's just he's had some flaws that have really just kept you guys back.
Yeah, I think it's his. What word am I thinking of? It's where I feel like you're too, cocky, like I guess arrogant. To where he wants to prove everybody wrong that I can do this. Like, I can win with Derek Carr. I can make it to the playoff with this quarterback that I chose to choose. That's how he is. It's just like, how about you just don't put your hands in the thing at all? How about you sign your coach that you believe in? Okay, so you think Kellen Moore's the guy. Let him pick his people. And then when you go to the draft, let him and his team draft, not you as a GM choose and say, well, I believe this is the guy. No, let the guy that you hired that's going to be coaching these players pick. And I think that's what he needs to do, to sit back as a GM, let us rebuild and give Kellen Moore and his coaching staff all the tools they need and just let them be the ones in charge of the players. Just sit back and just be a GM and relax and manage the money and stuff. Other than that, let them pick the players.
Yeah, I think that is a very important new age kind of approach for a GM manager to have, because I think the old school was a little bit of like, you will coach the players I give you, and this is what drove a lot of coaches that, of course, then want the mantle in the 90s and the early 2000s to also be the general manager and the coach at the same time, because they were like, I don't like that. This is stupid. This isn't a smart process the way you do it. And I think that you come to hopefully have a general manager who can find the perfect middle ground here where he still has that control over the top of the coach. I don't like coaches having general manager power, but that he is really connected in his process to his coach on those players, like you say, and that he's actually grabbing these guys that are truly ones that they're buying into and not forcing them. And that's our general manager has this kind of uniquely so built in because his situation was that way with Carroll, where Carroll had more power than him throughout that 15-year period. Now he has the power right over McDonald, but he understands, I think, a little bit in giving that rope that you have to your coach to allow them to have that ownership. You got to do it.
Yeah, and I guess to ask you, how did y'all feel about that? Like moving on from a guy like Carroll, who was there for a long time, like and won Super Bowls, which like, how do y'all feel moving on from him now? Finally, but I know he is older. Like I heard he's the oldest coach now in NFL history.
Yeah,
So
I think that it's a little bit like with Loomis there in the situation of when you have a guy that's given that amount of time after having some great success, do they get a chance to just write their own ticket? I don't think so. It's not my opinion. I think that there does come a place where you go, okay, we've learned that we've run this through a couple times. We've spun it around a few different circles. It's not hitting here. We're not catching lightning in a bottle. With Coach Carroll, there were things that had added up over time that were tangible things you could point to that weren't being corrected. Coach gets things wrong and they kind of change in what's getting wrong. We tried this, we adjusted. Now that's wrong. We tried that and we adjusted that. Now, well, this is wrong. If that, you can maybe understand it because they're at least trying to kind of figure out how to maybe modernize and move with the game as it's constantly evolving. But with Coach Carroll, there were specific things. He had a lot of control on the offense to the point on little things like you wouldn't target the middle of the field at like the 32nd rate in the NFL every season or near to that, right? Because you didn't want to throw to the middle of the field because you wanted to avoid turnovers. Well, but that becomes very predictable, doesn't it? Not as much running to the edges. We're going to run inside all the time. Well, that becomes predictable. Flip it to the defense. I don't want to change my coverages pre to post snap. Well, that becomes very predictable for the opposition. Then know that what coverage you're showing me prior to the snap is what the coverage I'm going to get post snap. He didn't like the blitz. Well, that means my front four needs to get pressure for me to have success. If they don't get pressure, I'm not going to have success. But you don't have the front four guys getting the job done. So there was things like this that just kept wash, rinse, repeating year after year after year. And it got to the point where you just go, he's not either capable of fixing it or wants to fix it. That there was almost a sense of he felt like the sports cylindrical, and that, okay, well, my defense ain't working today, but just give it enough time, it'll come back around to the other side and it'll start working again, because you're watching it right now, right? You had the cover two shell thing happen. Now running the ball has become more important with the cover two shell, lighter boxes. Well, what's going to happen from that? You're going to have the safety come back into the box. Well, then what happens from that? You get back to the old Coach Carroll defenses, cover three, single high safety stuff, right? So he's not kind of wrong in that sort of, it will cylindrically get there eventually. He's just wrong on the timing of when that was going to happen. And he was on the wrong end of it, wanting to run those kind of defenses when at the time when everything else was moving in this different direction.
Oh yeah. Last day, did you wanna after the game? It doesn't have to be Sunday, but like maybe like Tuesday or something, we can kind of link up again and kind of do like a review, like a recap.
I'm down to possibly do it. It probably would need to be for me maybe a Monday because the Tuesdays are just tough a little bit for me on that next week. But maybe a Monday if you've got it.
Yeah, I'll be in Miami Mondays and that's my birthday too. So like we can probably do it during the day if you're free during the day.
Let's put a tentative down and reach offline and see if we can get it coordinated. Because I definitely Mondays you'll probably be freed up on that. Tuesdays is just it starts getting crazy during the week on that at that point. So yeah, let's do it.
I appreciate you inviting me on.
Oh, absolutely, and it'll be second of another time here in the future with you, not just on Monday, but obviously, like I said, I think we're going to be playing again here in the future, again next year with it. And I love having you on, man, and I really appreciate you, taking the time out. I know you're busy during the year right now, but it's really appreciated. People do tend to love these behind enemy lines, and I tell you, nobody knows the perspective of the team like you do. I can go and look at people that do the general following or whatever, but there's always the tidbits you're giving in there that are just stuff that you can't get otherwise, which is really appreciate. Just get you a better understanding of this matchup walking into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just like a lot of people, like you said, you kind of low on Rattler. I'm more higher on Rattler, and it's just like y'all, like, what do y'all see in a guy like Jalen Monroe being drafted? You know what I'm saying? Like, because you got Sam Darnold right now, but I feel like Sam Darnold, the reason why he was really successful last year was because of the great the head coach over there, Kevin O'Connell, just because he's, made him. Because before that, everybody knew Sam Darnold as I seen ghosts on the field. Like, that was the last Sam Darnold I knew before Kevin O'Connell kind of changed him up. And he played really good with the Vikings last year. So, getting him and then drafting a guy like Jalen Monroe, like, do y'all ever see Jalen Monroe being the guy? Or you just see him just being like a kind of like a Taysom Hill kind of play like us, like a guy that's going to be using to do like RBOs or something like that for y'all?
Well, I think it's as you've talked about with Rattler and the outlook of that and the way people look at good, bad, the other, what about the supporting cast? I think there's a lot of that that goes on with Darnold. I walked through this just with Geno Smith. You know, I came here with Geno Smith watching that guy walk in and the fan base was not in on him. You're moving on from Russ for Geno. This guy can't do nothing. He's the Jets guy. That's who he is. He's the Jets guy. But then he came in here and he had 3 really good years. And he actually was a really good quarterback. And it wasn't always easy for him to have that success. And I think what we do when we look at these quarterbacks is we sort of say, let me throw him in the deep end of the pool. If he doesn't swim, then he sucks. Let me throw him in the trash heap and move on to the next one. I think it's kind of a broken mentality on this sport and our outlook of quarterbacks. I think it does extend to teams, and the teams make the same very mistake. There's a reason the Jets have multiple quarterbacks in the sport right now. They're actually having success that have come through there because they didn't have a proper environment and structure to let them have that success. I think it's the Tom Brady Mahomes factor that's really just like broken people's brain, because we've had two GOAT-like quarterbacks back to back come through and kind of dominate the Super Bowls. And so that makes everybody think you've got to have the superhero quarterback and that's what this takes. I don't think it does. We won a Super Bowl without a superhero quarterback 10 years ago. It can be done. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl without a superhero quarterback. It can be done. I think Sam Darnold's got the ability, if you give him the supporting cast, to be a top 10 quarterback in this sport. I think a top 10 quarterback can win you a Super Bowl. You got to give him that support. You know, he's not going to do himself on the thing, but I do think I push back on that and that thinking with it a little bit, not to you, but just in general to the outlook of Darnold. Because again, I've just been down this road so often where I'm seeing it. Baker Mayfield, how many people were ready to throw him in the scrap heap, right? And say, that guy's got nothing left in it. That guy, oh, now he's throwing 41 touchdowns a season out of Tampa Bay. The environment matters, man. It really does. With Milroe, the key with him and the key that you see with a team like Indianapolis Colts making this mistake and that they can't help themselves is that quarterbacks come in varying levels of readiness to be able to play. Spencer Rattler had a very long college career with a lot of college starts. He was more ready to get out there and start being ready to play. He had a more advanced game to go at that point. Guy like Milroe's got a lot to clean up. He's got a lot of natural talent, and the upside is insane on the kid. It is, but he's also quite a bit of ways from that upside, and he's got a lot that needs to get done. And I'm really in favor of that Aaron Rodgers kind of approach to it, where you take the true 2 years, because the rush here, Hoodie, is just to get these guys out there. That's the push. The rush is just see what you got. And I keep going. Why is that? Why is this the common thinking? We know these quarterbacks are coming out rawer than ever. Tom Brady himself talked about this. If these guys they're not advanced. They're in these simplified offenses that cookie cut everything for them. Why is there the rush to have to understand right now what you have? Why not give them that guy 2 years as a pro just to sit and learn and dive through film and refine mechanics? So we'll learn in 2 years what we have with him. I wasn't the biggest on the pick in the moment because there's some things that are inherently a part of his game that, in my opinion, Hoodie, there's things on quarterbacks that I don't know come forward, even if you do all that training and all that stuff. You know, for instance, arm strength. I don't think your arm strength goes much further past what it is coming into the sport. You know, maybe marginally you can uptick it a little bit, but it is what it is. Processing. Can you process? Can I drop back in the quarterback and go through reads, feel pressure around me, do both of those two things at the same point in time? Or am I kind of like I can't chew bubble gum and walk kind of thing? So there's some of that's there a little bit that I worry about with Milroe, but the talent's undeniable, and they're going to give him that time. And this is such an unusual situation where so many organizations out there over and over again just they can't help themselves. They'll tell you in the draft, Hoodie, you know, they'll be like, we know we need to give him the time. We understand. And then they get to like week 2 and they're like, we got to see what we got. And buddies, you guys, what about the plan? You know, which is good to see with you guys with Tyler Shock, though. Again, he is a little bit as well. Older prospect. I know the injuries robbed him of playing a ton in college, but another guy, though, that when you are taking him, you're kind of taking him with that should be kind of getting close to ready to play here. I shouldn't have to wait till he's 28 years old to say, like, okay, he's had his 2 years on the bench. Now at 28, he's going to come out to go. You know, it's got to kind of happen quick at that kind of play. But every prospect's different.
Yeah, everybody's
What's your
different.
outlook on it?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, you know, in the draft. And like you always said, it's always who you put around, right? You know, some people need more time to develop. Like Rattler, I believe a lot in him just because this dude's been through so much adversity. It's just kind of like reminding me a little bit of like a Baker Mayfield, where he had the hype coming out of high school. You know, he went to Oklahoma and they had the hype. Caleb Williams wound up, you know, beating him out for that job later on. He goes to South Carolina and kind of changed his whole perspective and his whole attitude. Like, you know, he went from being a cocky Spencer Rattler to, you know, more just laid back, I just got to do what I got to do to get to the league now. I lost my job to this guy, Caleb Williams. And playing with one of the worst offensive lines in college football. And only having one receiver in Xavier Legette, who you don't really hear that much anymore. As much hype when he got drafted since then, and that's who we had to work with. And at one time, they were projecting him to be a first, second round pick. He fell down to the fifth round when we drafted him last year. And a lot of people were saying the reason why he fell so far was because they was not for sure if he could lead a team. Because they were still judging him off the high school videos of him being cocky and saying stuff to teammates and stuff, and they just wasn't for sure if he was going to be that guy. Well, he fell to us, and with him having that chip on his shoulder, being drawn into a dumpster fire, doing everything that he went through, with college, and then now losing another new head coach and getting somebody else in here, and then them drafting somebody because they don't know you like that, and having to compete and still win that job. I just feel like he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, and he wants to show everybody that he can be the guy. For the future, just like Baker, you just got to get the right pieces around him, and you got to give him time. Hopefully, that ain't the case where they just give up on him like the Browns did on Baker, and then he had to go to a right situation to help him. Hopefully, we can just build the situation around him. And so, because I feel like he's really could be that type of dude, you just got to give him the support and cash. But, like they always say, time will tell. We really just don't know. But so far, what I've seen out of him, I really like him. He's got a lot of good, traits, and he's got a lot of things I really like about him that you've seen in other quarterbacks that we didn't have. We wasn't going for it because when Drew Brees got older, his arm wasn't there. So we were just throwing short stuff. Rattler can throw deep if you need him to. He can throw on the run. He can run out of the pocket. His pocket awareness is really good. Those are the good things that I like to see that some quarterbacks didn't have. Derek Carr, terrible pocket awareness, could not run out the pocket. So when you see stuff like that, it just makes you excited. And now it says, okay, now who is it going to be for the future? So far, they rolled in with Rattler over the guy that they drafted. So I'm just ready to see who they pick for the future. Is it anybody on the roster, or is it somebody that they planning for? Because there's a lot of rumors going around that Nussmeier, the offensive coordinator, his son plays for LSU. Will they keep him in Louisiana and be the next quarterback? We don't know. So it's just a lot of rumors, going around on what's going to be happening, who's going to be the guy, the franchise guy in New Orleans, and who will be that guy for Kellen Moore. But we're still waiting to see.
I think it's going to be hard for them if they're in that spot where they're picking with one of these top guys up there. And this is a draft that it may not be fully to the one that was a couple of years ago where you got 6 first-rounders, but it's going to be better than last year's draft. You might be saying 3 guys that go in the top of this draft would have gone number 1 overall in the prior year's draft. That has a real potential of happening, / there might even be more than that. And so it'll be interesting to see what the Saints do sitting at that territory and that point with that option, and how we'll learn a lot about their conviction at that point with Rattler. And if he has that solid, but where you guys at? Well, here's where the rubber meets the road, because you go grab another quarterback after taking shock with Rattler being solid at that point. It says you're absolutely not buying into, and they'd probably be having a trade of one of those 2 guys, and probably Rattler at that if they make that pick this offseason at that draft. So kind of a crossroads that'll probably come up at that point.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I forgot about Nussmeier though. That is a connection that's you gotta give some weight to that one, don't you?
Yeah, because that's his son, and he's projected to go in the top 5, top 10 picks, as one of the possibly. A lot of people are predicting him to be a, Heisman winner this year, but with the first 2 weeks, first 3 weeks so far in college, he just hasn't been doing that. But now there's reports coming out that he's been injured, and he's just been playing through it, trying to get through it. And they said they gotta wait till the bye week to finally give him some rest time because they're trying to, make it far. So it kind of makes sense why he's not looking like the old Nussmeier that can sling it. It's just been short stuff. You ain't seeing nothing deep, but it kind of makes sense now. So that's just kind of rooming around because he's at LSU. Will they keep him in state and make him go play for the Saints because his dad wants him? His dad knows him. That's his son. I want my son as my quarterback. Kellen Moore and Nussmeier are really great friends. That's why he hired him as well. So we'll see on how that goes. But, I know a lot of LSU fans would be happy because they get to see Nussmeier, just like us. We wanted Burrow in 19 to go straight to the Saints to replace the Drew Brees. But, you never know. You might see Burrow in the Saints uniform. If he keeps getting injured, Burrow, the Bengals might get tired of it and be like, we just got to move on. He keeps getting injured. So we'll see.
He started squawking last year, didn't he? So they signed his guys, but he was definitely squawking this offseason about, getting a little bit tired of the Bengals' ways, and they've blown out star quarterbacks before, like they did with Carson Palmer. And look, to your point on the Nussmeier thing, we've seen in NFL history, there be teams that make picks of guys, hometown guys. This is going to be a pick it doesn't have to weigh a lot, but if it's close, right? If it comes down to being like that's right on the line, the hometown aspect of it, the fans being bought into the pick, be enough to push that ball past the line on that one with a guy like Nussmeier. So I have seen this before go down like that, where they've connected those two to a player to the city in that way, and it makes a lot of sense if they were to do that. Hey, you got inside knowledge at that point too. I mean, that's not to be undersold too with his dad being. Now his dad's probably gonna be like, no, he's the bestest ever. He's got the greatest of arm strengths, and he's the most mobility and the smartest. And so how much can we trust in what this guy's telling us? But
Yeah,
he's a good quarterback.
Just like what's his name? The quarterback out of Clemson, dude. Like a lot of people hyping him up, and he ain't been doing nothing this year. Like he is not like what they think he is. Like the dude Bailey lost to us, lost to another team recently, and then the game where they played a team that wasn't up to par, and they barely slide by them either. And it's just you're just wondering like, so where's the hype around this guy now? Like he's not showing a first round pick now to me.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. It's early in the season, and I mean with Klubnik's tape, the tape last year is really good. So he's got a year in the bank, and that's the benefit I think right now that we're seeing with the NIL money that's giving you teams the benefit that you didn't used to have is that last year you would have had maybe a Klubnik type coming out, and then you've not. I don't think he was necessarily eligible, but that these guys are staying now a little bit longer in college, and that gives you that extra time to not only discern what you got, but also to let the guy develop truly and have the time to get the starts he needs to be better prepared to go to the NFL level. And Nussmeier's going to have 2 years of starting, and Klubnik and all these guys. And remember, for years there, we'd have guys with just 1 year of Anthony Richardson, 13 starts coming out, when he did. So it's, at the very least, I think the more data you get on this stuff, the better your chances of picking the right quarterback, because you have enough of those data points to go off of to say he should be or shouldn't be, successful. But yeah, Cade's had a bit of a rough start, but I'll tell you, man, the tape last year was as impressive of any of the quarterbacks coming into this year's class. He had some absolute dimes he was putting on, and I don't know if he's got a lot of skill. They got a good defense, but I don't know about the skill position players out there at Clemson that he's necessarily working with right now. Well, folks, if you do me this favor, down in the description section below, I got a link here to Hoodie Jube's channel. If you can for me, sub on up over there again. Just click that link, sub up. He's giving us good 2 hours of his time today. I really thank you for that, Hoodie, and hanging on in here with me. I appreciate the chat as always on this. And again, man, we're gonna get you back on here soon, maybe even this Monday as a wrap up on that. If you can for me, guys, please hit the like button either on my side or on Hoodie's side. On top of getting that sub on up and going, a big thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring the show. Use my code NEST on the Sleeper app today. They will give you up to $100 of your first deposit back your account. So $100 from me to you, and you support the channel at the very same time. What do we call that? A win-win-win. So limitations do apply. Check for their terms and conditions in the state of Washington. That is going to be opening up this October. There's been some restrictions in the state there, but this thing's going to go wide open in October 1st. So do keep on the lookout for that. Hoodie, what's the Twitter handle? Let the folks know out there so they give you a follow on the Twitter as well.
Yeah, just search up Hoodie Jube, just like my YouTube. Just search it up, you'll find me.
There we go. It's nice and easy in that fashion. So thank you for hanging in here with me today, man. I really appreciate the chat, and I know as well it's a tough opening. I've been there where you're at with this, where it's like, man, things are a little dark. It's been a rough road kind of getting to this point, but now at least it feels like you guys are progressing. Like you're not holding off getting to the place we can start to progress, right? And the can down the road or whatever, but you're actually in a place now where it's like, no, we're actually now making some forward momentum, not holding on to the vestiges of the past. And that's encouraging for you guys from my perspective to think that the light is there at the end of that tunnel.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And just we're looking at a lot of Saints fans, we're laughing about it, but I thought it was hilarious. Somebody posted on Twitter recently, they said, well, I mean, the Saints won 2 games dominantly last year before injuries, and then we went on to lose 7 straight. They said, well, we started off 0-2 this time, so maybe we're going to 7-game win streak. Who tells? Who would know? That's what they were saying. It was like, imagine it just being swapped, but I thought of it like, okay, that could be a good scenario, but I doubt it.
Hey, the NFL is highly, highly unpredictable. I've learned that just through the first 2 weeks of the Hawks team, and it's one where your knee-jerk reaction is to go to those, we're this, we're that, trying to determine, but it's so much more of you got to ride the ups and the downs of the year. Yeah, every game does matter, but it's a long NFL season, and if you get hot, if the momentum's right, the injuries can sometimes be that determining factor if they can hold better, and certainly you're holding better here through the first 2 games than you were last year. So I think there's a lot of reason here for optimism for your team and where you guys are moving forward. Even this upcoming season, is I'm not as low, even as though I know I'm a little bit skeptical with Rattler. I'm not as low on the team, and I don't think Rattler's bad. I think he's definitely a functional quarterback for what he can bring you out there. And kid's tough as hell. That alone, makes him easy to root for because he's just willing to stand there and let it rip. And he's gotten blasted between for last year and his time out there at South Carolina. He's taken a whooping, So you got to give the guys some props on that side of it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you for hanging in here today. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will be back in an hour on the NFC West Roundtable wearing this ridiculous monstrosity, this ridiculous abomination. Look at Hoodie's face. Look at the sadness he has for me in his face right now as he knows what it is. Imagine you have to wear a Carolina Panther hat.
You could have been wearing this instead. This would have been even better.
Well, if I wasn't dealing with a rotten Niner fan, then that would have been the case. If I was dealing with somebody that actually, was not wired to be a little bit evil at times, maybe I would be able to just have a regular old Niner hat. But this is the way it goes, and I'm not a welcher. So I will stand true to my word. Check in an hour for the humiliation ritual for yours truly, as that will be fun. I thank you, brother. Appreciate you. We'll get you back on here soon. Folks, hit that like button, sub on up. We're almost to 20,000 subscribers here. But beyond all that, please don't you ever forget, go Hawks.